Good deal. Okay, well, welcome to day 3, last day. Appreciate those of you who have stuck with us through this process. I think today is going to prove to be a fun day. Also gives us a little bit different perspective on the importance of partnerships and learn a little bit more about who the partners are that have made all this possible. And then we'll jump into the breakouts. You can talk to a couple different folks. You can see there, Mr. Greg DeVogel is our Chief Technology Officer over here at NSWC Port Hueneme Division. So he's going to share with anyone interested kind of the big research priorities and objectives that we have as a warfare center. So if you're interested in kind of engaging at that level and understanding what we're doing, and what those priorities are for in-service engineering in the future, augmented reality, remote maintenance, tech assist, things like that, consider joining Greg. Bryan and Eric Wendt will be providing an overview of SBIR funding opportunities. So small business innovative research. This is a funding program that companies can apply for, and it's really kind of the small non-traditional businesses that have a good idea. They can pitch that idea, aligns to a Navy need, and they can get funding through that program. And so we through our EDC partners and through FATHOMWERX, we've been pretty successful this last year with SBIR companies getting the awards. And so they'll share with you how to do that, some success stories. And then finally we have Dr. Bill Simmons. And he leads up, probably many of you know him, have worked with him. He leads up a broadband consortium that is really beyond even just broadband, but looking at everything from smart cities to connectivity and kind of the backbone of making all of this work. So he can share with you some information on that. So 3 good opportunities. Like I said, go ahead and put your choice there in the chat, and Haley will get you set up in those groups when we break out. But at this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bruce Stenslie from the EDC. He's been a long time and great partner with us, and he's going to tell you a little bit about EDC. So I'm going to pull up your slides here, Bruce, and hopefully you can just let me know when you want to select the next one. Just need to
go ahead. Can you hear me all right, folks?
Loud and clear.
Excellent. Good morning, all. Yes, please go ahead and pull up the slides. I don't see them yet, but they may be there, and I'll fill time here. So good morning, everyone. As it says right there, thank you, Alan. I see it perfectly. Bruce Stenslie, I'm president and CEO of one of the partners in the FATHOMWERX network here, the Economic Development Collaborative. I'm going to try and spend about 10 minutes sharing with you a little bit about our perspective on the topic of partnerships and engagement. So why don't you go ahead and flip to the next slide. And I'm going to start with a little bit of flight of fancy here on the slide. There you go. Trying to ask and answer the question to start, sort of a perspective on what is it that we drive partnerships? What is it that we engage and involve ourselves in partnerships and broad community engagement for? How do we deliver on that agenda? I want to also, for this group, because I am an economic development guy for the region, want to be a little bit of a shameless promoter of the region's strengths and assets, but not do that just for the promotion of that and the encouragement of all you to continue to do business and partner with the research labs here at Navy Base Ventura County, but also to understand or to illustrate how community engagement and partnerships are so essential to effectuating or moving the agenda that we think matters for the region. So to start at this first slide, that's the flight of fancy part. We want to believe that we are grounded in something of a reasonably soulful foundation. That is, we're not in this business as an economic development group, although our role is particularly around economic competitiveness specifically, but always with an eye to broadly shared prosperity, so that as we're doing that, we want to make sure that we are doing benefit for the entire region. And for environmental balance and sustainability, something, for example, one of our key partners here, and you'll hear from in a moment, Christina at the port, being a global leader in green activity, green initiatives, sustainability at the port. These are the values that we think bind us together. We think it's foundational to believe that we're not just working on an economy, that all these partnerships matter. And what undergirds all of these partnerships, I'll get to in a moment also, is the notion of a public-private partnership, something I know that Gene Fisher will be speaking about later too in RDP 21, figuring how the public sector can come together, the private sector can come together with public leadership, championing the economy and its connections to the research labs, to the Navy base and its extended network. So the strategies on that agenda. So if we're going to talk about this highfalutin stuff of economic competitiveness, broadly shared prosperity, and do no harm to the environment, we think this all aligns with the initiatives that are being driven by, or the goals that are driven by, or purposes and the outcomes that are being driven by ANTX and this entire enterprise, which foundational has to do with building and retaining skills. Ventura County as a region, California as a region, the US as a nation can't compete without making sure that we're investing in the workforce skills and the education pipeline to maintain that. We want to get excellent at networking knowledge assets, and that's the technology transfer agenda that is at the foundation of all of this. And what I'll get to in a moment also are these next several bullets, this notion of we need to optimize our economic assets. And what we believe those to be is a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem that I'll talk a little bit more about. What we have also, because of our legacy of being a partner with research institutions and the base and the aerospace industry, et cetera, is an extraordinary regional capacity in advanced manufacturing, broadly defined, and an incredibly globally connected economy here in Ventura County that we think creates the opportunity for businesses around the world, around the country, to connect with the research labs here and help drive our economy. Go ahead and flip to the next slide, Alan, please. So the foundational partnerships, just a little bit here and get off this one real quickly. I'm sure you've heard already a lot about FATHOMWERX, the partnerships, an MOU with the Port of Hueneme, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme, other partners as well, connected to the Navy, Matter Labs and our Economic Development Collaborative. And of course, the foundational pieces of that are, creating a laboratory, events, showcases, exercises, connecting to the education community. But ultimately, it's simply about networking assets to create economic opportunity for all involved in the region specifically. Just a bit of navel gazing for us. Again, I represent the Economic Development Collaborative. We also are very intentionally a public-private partnership. So for example, our governing board is a city council member from each of the region's cities, a couple of members of the County Board of Supervisors. It involves Naval Surface Warfare Center, but also then the key industry leaders and the education leaders, all of whom in the port who drive the region's economy. We want to do economic analysis, but mostly our role is transactional. We want to work with business to figure out how we can help them internally and externally solve the problems that are preventing them reaching their full potential in economic growth, sustainability, et cetera. And we are also starting to move more, and I didn't mention access to capital is a huge piece of this, but increasingly trying to look, as we're doing with this exercise, beyond our local boundaries and attract more investment into the region and take our assets out and accelerate opportunity elsewhere. We believe this is a value, not a value loss environment. The more we're engaged globally, nationally, and wherever, the greater the benefit for all of us. And this Business Forward VC thing is a website and an initiative we just recently stood up to try and do more networking of the region's partners and promotion of the region for business attraction. Go ahead, Alan, next slide, please. So this is sort of the dense too many words on a page slide, but the point of this is to try and run through a couple of key points real quickly and say, so if we have these big ideas around partnership and engagement, this is to illustrate if we're going to actually move the needle on the region's economy or promote the region's economy, let's be conscious and understand what those elements are and how critical public and private partnerships and broad community engagement is to driving each of them. So I can't help but start with this first one, Ventura County Quality of Life. I don't know if you guys ever saw this. USDA a few years ago did this analysis of a region's natural amenities assets and identified Ventura County as the #1 place in the nation amongst the 3,111 counties across the country. Pretty cool. But beyond that, we also look at a variety of other indices. There's a sustainable index, Sustainable Development Index, where we rank 16th out of 105 regions across the country. And you can look at any numbers of these indicators. And I mention that because I think what we're trying to promote is the notion that all of you who are involved in things like ANTX and doing research and connection to Navy-based Ventura County and the port, you're doing that in a context of a region that has a lot of assets for you as well. Brookings Institute on this whole notion of the global economy ranks Ventura County number 22 amongst the largest 100 urban areas in the country for our GDP that is tied to the global economy. And the important point there, of course, is a huge driver of that is the Port of Hueneme. So just two other points I want to hit on this and then get out of your way. Our mix of high-tech subsectors, this is a measure that is done by both Brookings Institute and the Milken Institute. And while we're not a huge production economy anymore, the R&D assets, the clean room assets, the biotech assets, and the broad environment of manufacturing, we rank among the highest, literally in the 5% top regions of the country for the number of high-tech subsectors that have a highly dense location quotient. That means they're more densely located here than other regions across the country. So no matter what aspect of R&D that you're looking at that might be connected to these research labs at the base and through the port, I want to communicate to you that you're also connecting to a region that has extraordinary assets. And for us to effectuate positive engagement with you means we bring in that entire environment. Finally, the one I wanted to hit here is a couple of bullet points about entrepreneurship. We've started to look at what are the inputs and outputs that show what is our profile or what is the status of our entrepreneurial ecosystem and how productive it is. And while we've just looked at California's 58 counties and we've used national indices, so we're not just making this up on our own data, within California, we rank 9th for the power, the diversity, the key elements that are identified there: density, connectivity, fluidity, economic diversity. And we think that now that we identify those variables, we can work on that and make it better through partnerships like ANTX here that we're working on today. While 9 isn't really cool, but you remember where we're standing behind would be Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and a handful of places like that. And you take them out of the equation, that shows that we're incredibly connected. Finally, last slide, and this is just a funny, colorful thing that we paid for a couple of years ago, and I have to share it every now and then. What we did in this entrepreneurial ecosystem is tried to look at, okay, what are the key industry sectors that drive our economy? So it's advanced manufacturing, ag, biotech, defense-related activities, and we mapped the stringy little lines going back and forth there. How interconnected are each of these key subsectors or industry clusters and sectors within these larger constructs? And you can see how incredibly linked defense-related activities are to advanced manufacturing, but for that matter, even to agriculture and to our ICT and professional services networks and so on. So what we know by that is that what we need to be working on with eternal vigilance is the development, maintenance, and sustenance of partnerships of all kind and broad community engagement. We're thrilled that you're part of this today. That's it. Alan, the last slide is my contact information. If anyone wants to call and say, what the heck are you talking about? I'd be happy to expand on that. Thanks. Any questions, or I'll get out of your way. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you, Bruce. Anyone have any questions before we move on? Okay, Bruce, always appreciate your participation and support and partnership. And I like that last slide. It's pretty interesting and a good graphical way to show the partnerships and the interconnectivities, which is you know, what we're trying to do and what we're supporting here. So really appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna move on to Miss Christina Birdsey. So as we know from day one, Miss Kristen Dekas, the CEO and Port Director, kind of gave us some welcome remarks. Christina has been a longtime partner in Coastal Trident, ANTX, Mass Lab, FATHOMWERX, and so really always good to get a port perspective. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Christina. Hopefully you'll be able to get unmuted. And what I'll do is pull up your slide here. 1 second.
Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Well, until then, good morning, everybody. I can see, Alan, that you're actually in the 319 building. I'm a little bit jealous. One of the things I miss about not being in person, especially for this event, is kind of that palpable energy when we have these events, you know, having everybody around and there's energy around that innovation and creativeness. So I'm hoping that people are still feeling that virtually and come out of this really buzzing with creativity and thinking and connecting, especially as we're talking today about collaborative partnerships and how to touch base with other people here that have been, you know, going through the ANTX for the last 3 days. So excited to see everybody. And once this slide jumps up, we'll get started. I'll kind of give a little bit of a background on the Port of Hueneme and just where we are and where Alan is right now, actually.
Sorry, Christina.
That's okay. Our PowerPoints tend to be very and are difficult to share. If it doesn't pop up, I can pull it up on mine and share my screen as well, if that's.
Let me try one more thing. Hold on for a second.
So just start sharing banana facts.
There we go. I think it doesn't like me trying to do it in full screen mode.
We don't need to do full screen mode. If that bothers it, we can just kind of roll through.
Okay.
I'll kind of keep it a little bit tighter too. I have extra slides in there, so I'm gonna keep it a little bit tight. Why don't we go ahead to the second slide. On the first day, I know that there was some information that was shared regarding national data. And so I wanted to, instead of repeating some of that data, I wanted to kind of share the California version of this and showcase the importance of what ports are to California and the economic engines. So 1/3 of California's economy starts at the ports. They generate over 5 million jobs, which creates 25% of California's GNP is seaborne trade. So it just kind of gives a little glimpse of how important ports are, not just nationally, but to California itself. So we'll jump into the next one, just to kind of give an idea of where we are, where Alan is this morning. The Oxnard Harbor District, so the Port of Hueneme, was actually built in 1937. That's the white boundary there, original boundary. And then in December of 41, when the attack of Pearl Harbor, the federal government came in and took it over by eminent domain, and it served as an important logistical location for the war. After the war, the Oxnard Harbor District stayed intact, and so slowly had a reacquisition of the wharf and then did some redevelopment areas. So the colored blocks is what the Port of Hueneme is today. So we are a shared harbor, a Navy seaport. So you can see kind of that colored area. The white boundary has expanded after the Seabees came in and did quite an expansion on the northern side for the Naval Base Ventura County. But it kind of gives you a glimpse of where we are. There's actually a little white building that Alan's in if you want to hover over it a little bit, but that's where Alan is today. And that's typically where that's where the lab is located and where we hope to see you next year. Next slide. So the Port of Hueneme, and this is our port governance. So we have 5 commissioners. Jess Ramirez, the president, and Commissioner Herrera are longshoremen. Vice President Hodge is a local fireman, and Marianne Rooney is a local businesswoman, and then our newest commissioner, Selena Zacarias, who's actually been participating here in ANTX for the past few days, is our most recent. And the 5 appointed board members are must live in and are voted by the members in the geopolitical boundary of Oxnard, the city of Oxnard, the city of Port Hueneme, and unincorporated beach areas. For the vision of the port and mission, it's to be a self-supporting port for typically niche cargo, specialized cargo. And the idea is to provide the maximum possible economic and social benefits to our community. That becomes a common thread as everything kind of hunkers back down to the economic and social benefits to our community. Next slide. So what moves through our port here? I think we're typically known for bananas and autos, and I know a lot of fun facts for bananas, so if we have time I can get to those, but we do about, if you look at the cargo tonnage by segment, we do over 38% is bananas. That's about 650,000 tons of bananas. Around 9 million bananas per week come through the Port of Hueneme. It's a lot of bananas, and then other fresh fruit. If you switch that to a revenue segment, kind of our bread and butter is autos. So we do around 300 to 340,000 autos transit the port. So we've had great success over the last recession, increase of over 26%. COVID will change that, and I'll get to that in a second. But you can see that, you know, the amount of cargo that runs through this port. And I still don't have the specific statistic, but I think we're one of the most efficient ports for our size, being able to move the amount of cargo that we do. Next slide. What does that mean? Economic prosperity for the region. So we have generate over 15,000 jobs. We're actually the 4th largest employer in Ventura County, and it generates tax revenues for the local cities and counties. I'll go ahead and jump to the next slide. What are some of the auto types and other customers that help us thrive here? So Chiquita and Del Monte are some of our big bananas. If you ate a banana today, either a Chiquita or Del Monte banana, it came through Hueneme. We also have vehicle brands including BMW. We have Subarus that have been very strong. We also do some export of GMs, so you can kind of see a list there. Next slide. How is COVID going to impact us? So as projected through 2020, we had kind of a best case scenario. We'd be down 6%, worst case around 28%. Luckily, we're not seeing that worst case scenario. However, we were planning and preparing for worst case. We had at one time we had 100% of our OEMs, all of the manufacturers for our autos, their plants were closed down, either internationally or, and also domestically when we were doing some of the export. Each one was closed down. It takes a while for that to trickle down and actually impact the port. So we had to kind of check and see. It takes about 2 weeks to build a car. If it's coming from Europe, it takes about another 4 weeks before we would see it. So once that plant closes, we see that impact about 6 weeks later. So we did actually have a couple weeks where we didn't see an auto vessel come in, or it came in with other cargo and had to skip because they didn't have cargo. So we've seen that start to normalize, which is fantastic, but we're kind of keeping an eye on that and see how the economic indicators move forward. Next slide with the bananas. We kind of had some interesting changes. Initially, I think right when we went into quarantine, everybody stockpiled and we saw a little bit of an increase. And then as people started to change their shopping experiences, we saw a little bit more of congestion and rollover of product serve the county. So we've been able to actually take a lot of that rollover and distribute it through the county and where some of the population is in need. But we've also seen some container storage becoming an issue. A little of that is starting to normalize as well as we kind of roll through these next few months and see how things change. But one of the things, and I also say to my kids while we're going through this, there's a lot to kind of look at and look at the bad side, but we try to focus on kind of those silver linings. Next slide. What are some of the silver linings, many silver linings for us? Next slide, Alan, thanks. Is that we would have stronger relationships. One of the things during kind of these trying times is really leaning on our partnership agencies and how to move forward. So we have a lot of strength through Coastal Trident, leaning on our neighbors to be able to strengthen security relationships, education partnerships, and of course, innovation partnerships. Next slide. Have to start with this strategic partnership being our neighbor. Naval Base Ventura County, we also have a joint use agreement with the Navy. So we share a property in the sense that if we need additional space and it's approved, we're allowed to lay down additional cargo. The nice thing about this agreement is that we do a revenue share with the Navy Base Ventura County, and that funding actually stays local. So instead of going to DC, it stays here regionally. So that revenue that is shared with them goes to projects that stay here on base. So that is, that's one of the benefits to that partnership. Next slide. From a security perspective and the size of the port, leaning on our relationships and our security partners, we do not have port police like some of the other larger ports have. We do not have port fire department. So we really have to utilize a lot of our outside agencies and throughout the county to make sure that what we do here is secure and safe and people are trained. One of the famous things from the Coastal Trident team was, you know, the benefit is we don't see a lot of mishaps happen at the port, knock on wood, but it also doesn't give the people a lot of time to train and become familiar. So Coastal Trident had been a great relationship building for the region to be able to bring in all of those security partners and really become familiar and continue to stay familiar with the port so that when we do have an incident, things are seamless. And that has been very successful. We've also had a lot of success with those partnerships by going after grants. And so having those relationships, we've been able to secure equipment like bomb team equipment, EOC equipment for the county. When we are making the port safer through those funds, we make the county safer as well. So that has been a successful program. Over 15, I think 16 million now. We had a over $1.1 million grant for this year as well. So that's been successful in building on those relationships as well. You can skip the next slide and then the following one. This kind of highlights a lot of the strategic partnerships. I won't go into too much here. We're talking about a lot of the security partnerships. So we have a lot of education partnerships, industry associations. Bruce talked about this a lot as well, to be able to achieve common goals. We also work with regional transportation agencies, of course, moving goods. We want to make sure that we're supporting a national freight strategy. Next slide. Coastal Trident, I can't believe it's been the 16th this year. So we had the 16th annual regional exercise for the port this last July. Again, success due in part to the strength of our stakeholders. It was the first time that we had to transition, of course, to a virtual tabletop. And it was considered by the Coast Guard one of the more successful exercises, security exercises, because all of the stakeholders were still involved, were still participating in the midst of all of these fires and other tragedies that are going on. They find that the importance of having these stakeholders and working through Coastal Trident. So that was a great success. Next slide. Community and education partnerships. We'll just kind of flip through these. You can go on to the next one. Supporting our community. We like to show that where we're committed to community and being able to do sponsorships and making sure that again, we're making the biggest impact in our community for economic and socially to our surrounding community. Next slide. Education and outreach. I think last year, prior to COVID, we did about 150 school tours. So I think we almost need to hire somebody just to do education school tours. But it really is phenomenal, you know, when you have somebody coming into the port, not understanding what the port does, to really have a better understanding of how food gets onto your plate, being able to see the big cranes and the vessels coming in. It is really exciting, and they kind of leave with excitement, as you can see in that picture. We also do a global trade and logistics class, which we're moving to a virtual platform this year as well, where students learn after school, come into the port, learn again from a lot of our stakeholders about maritime industry through courses taught by port and its customers. And then at the end, either one or two of the highest performing students in that class get a paid internship at the port. And some of those have gone on to some really great things, so we've been tracking them. So it's been a really big impact to have these kids in here and learning about global trade. Next slide. I think that's my last one. Of course, I've got to end on innovation technology. So MAST and being able to have a collaborative partnership with Naval Base Ventura County, Matter Labs, and EDC, building this FATHOMWERX lab. You know, there's the excitement out of the port and being a part of this collaborative and seeing all of the innovation and creativeness that can come out of this. You know, our intent from the port is to be able to lend the port and the asset that we have here that is really unique to our community. And hopefully we'll see at the back end of it, the maritime domain be the benefactor of new technologies that are bred out of this. So we're thrilled to be a part of it, and excited for the third day of ANTX. And that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Really appreciate that. You know, I've been running around your port here and have had the pleasure of knowing you for, I guess, 14 years now. And it's always amazing to see your overview of the port, and remember that as us crazy engineers and scientists and nerds are running around trying to do things, that you also try and run a port. And so appreciate your help, your patience, dealing with us, and sometimes the kind reminders that you're still trying to run a port. You know, Bryan here in just a minute will be kind of doing a walkthrough of 319 to show off the space. And I guess I just encourage everyone as they're watching that to remember that we're doing all this in a very, very busy functional port. And so, you know, the ability to have that relationship and that collaboration and that partnership with you is critical. And again, just thank you so much for all your support over the last 14 years.
Yeah, we're excited to be a part of it. Can't believe it's been 14 years.
It's crazy. Outstanding. Okay, well, we're going to switch now to Mr. Gene Fisher from RDP 21. Gene gave us some welcome remarks on day one, and now it's going to share a little bit more about his organization. And so, Gene, give me just a second here. I'll pull up your slides, and then, like I said, just tell me when to click through them.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear, sir.
Okay. Well, we're certainly glad to be here, and we couldn't be with a better group. We've had these partners that just preceded us for almost the beginning of RDP, and we've, I think collectively between us, we have been able to do a lot for, in our case, the military and military partnerships, and we certainly couldn't do a lot of the things we've done without partners like the port and EDC. And so I'd just like to thank them before I get started for all their support over the years and the great working relationships they've helped create. Go to the first slide, please. Or second, yeah. I tried to keep this brief today. I know you've got lots on your program, and so let me just start with who are we? And we are the Ventura County Community-Based Support Group. If you looked at our organization, you would see that we are supported by 6 cities in the county and the county itself. That's in Ventura, City of Ventura, City of Oxnard, Port Hueneme, Camarillo, Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks. Did I say Simi Valley? If I didn't, they're also one. So we've got 6 cities that support us and the county. We've been in existence since the early days of the first BRACs. We didn't have an organization to support the bases at that time, and the BRAC process came along and we saw that, wow, we might lose a base. And so the county came together and we formed an organization to defend, which was 2 bases in those days, the base at Point Magoo and the base at CB, which have now come together under one name, Naval Base Ventura County. We were very successful in that process, but at the end of that process, what we found, we found a weakened base, a lot of empty buildings, a base that could be put on the list again. And we decided to permanently form this organization and call it Regional Defense Partnership, and go out and lobby for and support and build up the bases again. So normally at this point, if I was giving a normal presentation, I would go into all that's happened in Naval Base Ventura County, all the funding we've been able to get for them, including the Air National Guard, which is located next to the base. And if you looked at that in recent history, you would see that we have been able to market for, bring in new programs, bring in new commands, and we've gone in just the last 5 to 6 years alone from 70 commands on the base to something like 90 commands on the base. And in fact, we've been so successful in building up new programs that we now have a new problem. We don't have room for some of the growth that needs to take place on the base. We filled up all the buildings. We have now commands that, for instance, where Alan is, they need more space for desks and people, and so does many of the other commands. So now we've got a new problem that we are now working on to look at how we can get new buildings built by a contractor and contractor partnerships that would eventually belong to the government. And in addition to that, just some examples that the Air National Guard would probably not be here now if it hadn't been for work. We got them 13 aircrafts added to the budget a number of years ago that reinvigorated them with the latest aircraft. That's one example. Another great example is the organization, and this meeting we're having today was started by Point Magoo as the Center for Asymmetric Warfare. But shortly after it got started, everybody wanted to use it, but no one wanted to pay for the services. So RDP thought it was such an important organization, and the asymmetric problem was so large that we went to Congress and got an ad for 3 years worth of funding to get them on their feet and keep them funded while they did this these kind of events and held these kind of events. And that eventually evolved into the organization that we're now so happy to support, that Alan is largely responsible for keeping afloat at Surface Warfare Center. But if we hadn't have gotten that 3 years of funding, we probably wouldn't have had the organization, or we know we wouldn't have had the organization that we're now supporting. So those are just some examples of some of the things we advocate for and support all of the facilities and defense organizations in the area. We lobby for new work, we bring in new work, we lobby and get enhancements. Over the last 10 years, we've gotten almost $100 million of military construction throughout the area for absolutely necessary improvements. And and some great new programs that came with some of that. So that's among some of the things we do. Our board consists of the members from each of the governmental activities supervisors and council members from each of the cities and some technical leaders and experts from the community. So we have a lobbyist in Washington. We lobby, we usually make an annual trip every year to lobby for various programs. We take on all the new issues. We visit the bases at least once a year just to obtain new issues, and those issues we write white papers on and deliver and lobby for at various levels of Armed Services Committee, Congress, Senate, et cetera, et cetera. As I kind of transition from this overview, like last item there, act as a catalyst for technology and innovation events. This is an area I'll talk a little bit more about as we go on, but this is an area that we're really putting a lot of emphasis on. We wanted to bring a lot of technology events back to the Ventura County and help the bases and support them in those areas that are hard for them to do in sponsorship and funding. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. One other thing I would like you to know about, Regional Defense Partnership is very active in the state as well, and with the Military Council. And last year, I thought it was important to get all of the base support groups in the state together and act so we could act collectively. So I went out to form what's called California Defense Communities Alliance, and I'm glad to report that we now have a statewide organization. I'm one of the chairs of that organization. We've established it. We have right now the 7 of the major base support groups in the state as members and participants, and we're growing that organization. So now not only do we have ourselves as an advocate, we have if we have common issues, we have most of the state's areas that hold military bases as members that we can pool our resources and pool our lobbyists and advocate for things that are necessary and important for the whole state. One of the major issues we've taken on recently is licensure for spouses. As you know, as spouses move around from everything from lawyers, beauticians, etc., they have a hard time operating in a new state because of the rules and regulations. So we now have an initiative that we're working on that gives spouses of military members a ability to transfer their license from whatever state that they've got them in and allow them to be used while they're here in California. And that's an initiative that we're working on currently at the state level. I think the most important thing to take away from this is the fact that we now have one of the most viable bases in all of the U.S. And in fact, we have now got, when we visit DOD and when we visit Congress, we used to have to try to preach to them that this is a national asset. Now it's turned around. When we go visit them, they say, oh, yeah, you guys, that's a national asset. We got to keep that. We've also had that kind of language that we tried to work for, the self-defense ship. And now when we talk to Congress and various people, they tell us it's a national asset. So that's a great place to be. And that's, and with the growth in programs, we should be assured for a long time, a very viable and defendable base. Next slide, please. So what do we do in our strategic approach? We have a strategic committee, and we're always reevaluating what the programs are, what are the new programs coming down the line, what's the new technology we ought to be fighting to get for here, what kind of facilities going to be needed to do that. And then we go to work writing white papers. We project what the investments are going to be needed, what kind of policies will be needed, what kind of network we need to develop, etc. And during all of that process, we're continually making visits to the base, getting educated, making sure we're working on the things that they think are important, not just that we think, trying to hold events to promote those kind of activities. And again, finding out what the base's issues are so we can continually keep in front of our congressional delegations and the Department of Defense offices that this is the place to bring the programs. These are the things that are important, and this is the legislation that's important to keep these kind of programs and this kind of innovation occurring, which often isn't thought of as a local issue to be fighting for, but we found that often we're educating some of these people who are in very important positions. So we've taken on the role to try to make sure that we're not only looking out locally, but we're promoting those programs that are best for the country and best for DoD. One of the things that we've developed is great credibility, because we've taken on as our policy that we'll never support anything that's just a local, let's get it here, let's do it here, or it has to be something that we can say is good for the country, is good for the Navy, and is important in the list of priorities. And once we can make that call, then we go support it, and then we go fight for it. And so that's given us great credibility. And in fact, when we visit most of the offices, particularly in Armed Services Committee, our Congress people, and in the DoD directorate level and Navy at CNO level, they always welcome us. They say, we love to see you guys here because we know you're fighting for the right things and you're supporting us in the areas that we need support. And so with that credibility, it's easy for us to make progress. And many of the things I've talked about, the reason we get them is because they believe us when we say they're important, and they take them on to go look at, and we've been, and in almost all cases, I think the answers come down, yes, you're right, this isn't important. I'm not saying we get everything because the budgets are what the budgets are sometimes, but our credibility is very high, and we've been very successful in getting most of the areas supported. Next slide, please. So what's our vision? Well, we want Ventura County to be a place where innovation and new technology applications occur, and that Naval Base Ventura County is a center for that, and that's what we're working on. We're working on that vision to bring that technology here, use the base as the catalyst or the place to center that support and growth. And as we say, we have a strategic committee that's continuously trying to work on innovations and military technological capabilities, making sure that the base has the capability to do whatever that new technology is, try to make sure we're ahead of the curve in obtaining that capability for the base, and making sure that our congressional people and the various DoD areas know this is the place and this is the right place to do that. And we obviously can then use those partnerships as a catalyst for economic growth. So yes, the base is extremely important for this economy. It's over $2 billion input to the local community, and so it's the kind of thing that if we want to grow the economy, if we want to grow technology in the area, this is one of the areas that we're going to have the easiest and best approach to finding those new programs and bringing the new technology and trying to stay on the cutting edge of where the technology needs to be and needs to grow to, and with using the base as the center for obtaining that, it not only supports growth in our community, our technology community, but those companies that support the base also get a chance to grow into the new technologies on the cutting edge. So this flows from the base into the community, into the local contracting community, and strengthens not only the base and that community, but strengthens the county as a technology center. Next slide, please. So what have we, lately we've been saying that, well, you know, one of the areas that we've neglected slightly over the years, and this is the last 3 or 4 years, we've really started to emphasize this, is we need to bring more things here. We need to do more here and have more opportunities for collaboration. So we've been sponsoring a lot of technology innovation events. We want to continue to sponsor more events. We want to make it easier and easier for the base to hold events and to be that organization that can provide organizational skills for the events, as well as help provide funding and support to hold the events. I've already talked about CDCA, which we helped create and now have as a statewide support organization. Next slide, please. Well, what's coming up? I wanted to emphasize, since we had transitioned earlier to talking about innovation events, obviously we're in one of those events today. We're not the biggest sponsor of that. We're a supporter of that and help where we can, but we have been taking lead on many events. We held a major event for NAVFAC at the Sheridan last year. We've got another several events in the planning. We're doing a lot of innovation discovery events, and many of you have gotten emails or attended those or been a part of those. There's a number of those coming up in the next month. We're currently working with NAVFAC to do a what's called a Mosaic joint capability event, and that will be, at this point, it looks like that will be in November. Still trying to figure out if we can do something more than a virtual event, but it's not looking promising that will also have to probably be a virtual event. And then, of course, we're all looking forward to the next ANTX event, and we have at least a couple of ideas in mind that we're not ready to present yet on other events that we will be able to hold early next year. We would like to, obviously, like everybody, would like to get back to the point where we can hold major events in the local hotels, ballrooms, et cetera, to spur on new technology and new technology symposiums, and that may have to wait until, as we all know, things get back to the old or close to the old normal. I think we all believe it'll never be back to the old normal, but we do have a lot in planning. We're eager to be a supporter. We're eager to sponsor any events that the base and base commands have. We work very closely with Alan and Cheryl at NAVFAC to try to bring on new events. And we will be stepping up our work with NOC, Naval Air Warfare Center, over the next year to host events for them as well. Next slide. That's it then. If there's any questions or however you want to handle that, Alan.
Outstanding. Okay, well, thank you, Gene. Really appreciate it. Like you mentioned, we've been long time involvement in all things, going way back, even predating a lot of us on the call, as far as Center for Asymmetric Warfare and some of the initiatives going on there. So great to have you. Thanks for joining us again on day 3 and all your support in the background. And like you mentioned, we'll figure out how to what next year looks like and how to engage at that level. So perfect. The last one before we get into the breakout sessions is everybody's sort of rock star of the group, Bryan went. So he is running around here somewhere, and I think he's going to give a tour or something. Is that right, Haley? Not quite sure. So, Bryan, you're there. I see you. I'm going to shut up now and turn it over to you.
Can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. Thanks for that very nice introduction. I'm going to go pretty quick on my topic here because we've got breakouts to get to. So I was asked to speak a little bit about consortiums and other resources that are available for everyone. So just quick introduction. I'm Bryan Wentz, CEO of Matter Labs, managing partner also here at FATHOMWERX. Thanks for everyone for joining me today. I'm not an expert on this stuff. You don't really need to be. We're going to go through some quick details, but to be honest with you, all you really need to do is understand what this can do for you. There's a lot of opportunities out there like broad area announcements, SBIRs. But we're going to talk today about this third one down, OTAs. Again, don't really need to know what these are, but just to give you a little example, OTAs are a vehicle where money can be pulled out of the government. It's an easy path to money, and it's designed specifically for small and medium businesses, which is great, right? So those OTAs are passed through consortiums. You need to be a member of the consortium in order to take advantage of that opportunity. Simple, right? So basically a consortium is a club that has money for you for small and medium businesses. Here's some quick examples. I won't go through them all, but I just highlighted some of the details. You can see how it's beneficial for government and it's beneficial for small to medium businesses. The great thing about this is it's money for small to medium businesses only. The proposal or the awards can't be contested, and they usually pay out within about 90 days. So it's pretty great for small business owners. Here's a quick example of some of the consortiums that are out there. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of them. I think Matter Labs belongs to, I don't know, 5 or 6 out there. Go look, find one that's on your topic somewhere where you're interested. You can see how they're all kind of broken up and they have their own little area to play in. And they do that for specific reasons, so they're not double dipping on opportunities. So go look around, go join them. They're great people with open arms. They'll welcome you in. You don't have to know much. Just show up and say, hey, what am I doing here? How do I get involved? What's next steps? So again, really quick on consortiums. Think of it like a club that has money for you to small to medium businesses. From the government side, it's a great way to interact with small to medium businesses. And it's a tried and true format where it's awards based on milestones, similar to an SBIR program. So it kind of de-risks some of that money for those opportunities, which is great. So I'm going to move on quickly to another great resource, which I'm really excited to talk about, and that's FATHOMWERX, where we're sitting today. FATHOMWERX, I've got to thank our partners who put all this together and that we're proud to be a part of. The Economic Development Collaborative of Ventura County. We've got the Port of Hueneme, which property that we're sitting on in this giant building that you're going to see, we're going to walk through, and then NAVC, of course, and then us at Matter Labs. If you don't know or you're familiar with the area, real quick, this is the 319 building. We're not on the base, we're on the port's property inside their gate, so you can't just walk up and knock on our door. You need to make an appointment and come in. If you've been out for MAST or ANTX in that building for a large event, that's the building we're in. What is FATHOMWERX? It's 2 parts really. We've got this community side, partners, information, opportunities, where we try and help people understand what's out there, how to team up, partner up, what's available for them to get to on both the government side and the small business side. Well, small, large business side, doesn't matter. And then we've got this physical space. We've got this big lab, this 60,000-foot warehouse with about $3 million plus in equipment that's here. And it's a joint collaborative space where people from academia, the government, anybody else who wants to come in and help prototype, build, advanced technology, especially in the dual use space. And the prime objective is to really help those technologies that can help our DOT and maritime problems. So if you have something like that, this is a place for you to come and get involved. We've got the lab capabilities here on the list. We're going to walk through some of these in a minute. You can read through them. We're going to see them. We don't need to go into that too much. A lot of people kind of ask, how do you get these 2 parts to play? You've got this one side where it's a heap of knowledge and opportunity. And then you've got this other side where you've got you've got investors and you've got businesses and you've got all these things that are mixed up. So how do we do that? Well, we do it through events like ANTX, through any sort of small event. We've got the Rust-a-thon going on right now where we're testing coatings. We've got plenty of opportunities like that, education. We've got online forums where Slack channels you can go in and chat. So we've got this great way to kind of mix people up and join the 2 together. which is great. And then what comes out of that? Well, depending on what kind of hat you're looking at, you know, from a city perspective, county, a business, whatever. So we've got lots of things that come out of that between jobs, investment, retaining, you know, opportunities here in the county. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, it's problem solved, right? We're helping our frontline people and that are out there protecting us, and we're helping to try and protect them a little bit better and trying to solve some of the biggest problems that are out there in those domains. So also wanted to make a quick mention, because we're very proud of this. We're the home of the Ventura County, the Ventura Tech Bridge, which is a center of excellence for Naval X. We won't go into that, but most of you are familiar with it. If not, you can Google it or hit us up. But here's a quick slide on it. You can always look at the replay and pause on this and talk about Naval X. So we're very proud to be a tech bridge. And there's a few tech bridges out there. These are some other slides if we had time. So real quick, I'm gonna stop screen sharing and I'm going to, can you guys still see me? I'm assuming so, no one's got video on, but so quick view of FATHOMWERX. As you come in, we've got our check-in area. This is a 60,000 square foot building that we have taken over and have everything inside of. To the right of me, down this way, we've got some teams moving in that are gonna help work on some of their projects here, including the infamous jetpack. We won't say, they were not the guys that buzzed the airplanes, but they've got, they're the guys that flew around the Statue of Liberty. They're here, they're gonna be on later today. Each one of these Connex boxes is full of equipment. So each one of these boxes is a small lab. We've got our Navy partner and lab manager, Mark, running around behind me, showing off some of the pieces. Say hi, Mark.
Hey, morning.
And then here's more of the labs with more equipment inside, as you can see. So we've got advanced material testing equipment. We've got advanced weather testing. We've got thermal imaging. We've got additive manufacturing, which I'll show you in a minute. We've got a huge metal and work space for doing, for anything you want, really. We've got the 3D print lab, which covers all your typical additive manufacturings with the typical plastics. Then you've got this behemoth, which most people have been waiting for inside our newly built clean room. I don't know if this opens up, probably not. So inside there, I don't know if you can see that monster in there under the cover is a $1.5 million printer. It's able to print various types of metals that can be aerospace, thank you, Mark, aerospace and medical grade prints in our clean room. This is be up and running probably in the next 30 days, 45 days. Hopefully we'll have it done. We've got a collaboration space, an event space, so we can host events here. We've got a stage area, which of course we can't do right now. We've got a built-in UAV cage, so you can come fly your drones if you're worried about what they're gonna do or you're still learning. And then last but, well, two things left. I'm gonna walk up here. We've got our above ground test pool. This is a porthole into it. And I'll walk up so you guys can get a view of it. It's 75,000 gallons. It's 25 by 50 and about 10 to 12 feet deep. So if you've got something you want to come test, come get wet, come down and jump in. The water's warm. The other side that we have lastly is this huge, what I call flex space. And what we can do here is if we've simulated mock runways to test, LiDAR scanning for bombed out areas, stuff like that. We can turn this into anything. We can run autonomous vehicles, whatever you like. So this is a little bit of overview of the space. We got 20,000 dedicated, 40,000 in flex space. If you have needs, things you want to test, you want to try and partner up on something for an SBIR, for a CRADA, whatever it is, come check out the website, see our capabilities, sign up as a member. It's free to everybody, both federal, individuals, and companies. So come sign up, hit us up, let us know what your needs are. We're always looking for requests. We're always trying to get more equipment to kind of fill in the gaps. So that's pretty much it from FATHOMWERX and Consortiums. I'm gonna hand it back over to the team. They're actually setting up right now. So real quick, if you haven't put in your number for your breakout. Please do that now. Haley's going to divide you up into the rooms. We're going to get started on breakouts. Apologize for running a little long. I hope that that was entertaining for you guys. So I'm going to turn it back over to Alan for some further instruction for breakouts.
All right. Hey, very cool. Thank you. It was fun to watch, even though I'm here. So Haley threw up the three options for our breakout rooms. So I know it looks like most, has everybody kind of accounted for? We still have a couple missing. So if you take just a second, send her a note on which one you're interested in. Again, Mr. Greg DeVogel, our Chief Technology Officer here at NSWC Port Hueneme Division, talking about research priorities for the command, Matter Labs, Eric and Bryan, SBIR funding opportunities, and Dr. Simmons explaining the broadband consortium. All three great topics. They will be recorded. So if you want to be in all three, but you have to pick one, don't worry, you'll be able to get them afterwards. So just take a minute, and Haley, whenever you're ready, I guess go ahead and set up the rooms, and we'll get that. When we're done, we'll come back to this main one, couple closing remarks, and then we're going to do a pitch-a-thon. You're welcome to join us if you're interested, but that's how we'll wrap up the day at that point. All right, Haley, over to you.
What's your background, Mike?
It's from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, that's what I thought.
I think it kind of looks like FATHOMWERX.
It does.
I'm guessing Eric and Bryan have them in the back somewhere.
Hi, everybody.
Bill, do I have a FATHOMWERX background? No. I'm obsessed with Zoom backgrounds. I don't know exactly why.
Shall we go ahead and dive in? Or do you think we're waiting for a couple more? I saw a message before I joined that said speakers take off and go, and I can certainly do that.
Well, I know when I signed in, there's quite a few people that said, you know, section 3, so I'm surprised there are not more on.
We could wait for a few more minutes. Hey, look, were you all individually invited by the host, or did you get a URL to click on to get here?
Invited.
Yeah, it was invited and we just clicked on.
I've got to learn more about Zoom. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Yep. Breakout rooms can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Especially with big groups.
This is going to be a fun discussion. You guys are all big thinkers.
It should be subtitled, "Are we there yet?" There we go. That's from FATHOMWERX. We did a startup weekend last summer, 2 summers ago. It was a blast. I have FiOS at home, so I'm willing to wait.
What is the difference of having FiOS versus Charter and you waiting? Well, I have FiOS too. I just don't know what the difference would be. Other than you have plenty of bandwidth.
Yeah, I think I'm up to 300 megs up and down, which all it really matters is when my kids are home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Between my wife and I, we just don't use that much.
Okay, it says, hi, Bill, feel free to share your screen. I can do that. And we can dive in, I think. Okay, can everybody see that? Most of you know that I have a hat that I wear for RDP 21. The Broadband Consortia is the other hat that I wear in terms of the work that I do in Ventura County. The consortia operates under the Economic Development Collaborative, and it's been going for, well, let me move on to the next slide, 6 years. We are on the, let me go ahead and blow this up if I can do that. We're one of 18, or actually 16 consortia statewide. We were late to the game. Consortia had been around, funded by the Public Utilities Commission for quite some time. The CPUC originally wanted to figure out ways in which they could close gaps in rural areas, and that was what they funded consortia to do. This is a tri-county consortia. So Ventura County is where, because we're based here and we're based out of the EDC, we tend to be moving out faster than the other two counties, but the last several years we've been building relationships up in Santa Barbara County as well as San Luis Obispo County. And I want to share with you some things happening up in Vandenberg as part of the discussion as we move forward. So that's what a consortia does. And we started with Public Utilities Commission money, but now we're also getting funds from Caltrans. We got some private money coming in from Verizon. It's really moving forward and picking up some steam. So this is the focus area, the statement of work more or less of what a consortia is doing. As I said, our primary objective in the first two grants were to focus on the priority areas and the rural areas. We did a survey back in 16. It showed where we were on a report card. We rated about a D+, C- statewide in terms of Ventura County broadband connectivity. We've been working to improve that grade. And so much of the improvement is just getting everybody talking to each other and understanding the urgency. One of the political aspects in awareness and education is understanding that broadband is a fourth utility. Not everybody views it that way just yet. COVID has helped in terms of creating that awareness, but it is the fourth utility. It's as essential to 100% of the population as water, electricity, and gas. And then in that vein, we've been wanting to have it treated as a utility as well, and recognized by city councils and supervisors, the political folks, that investments required and management of the utilities required, and to have that kind of discussion. And then I mentioned that we're also into special initiatives. I'll be talking about a regional network and the regional forums where we create awareness and educate the future of work. And then I'm going to end on the smart city, because I think the smart city discussion is where we really have a nexus into what Coastal Trident and ANTX is about. And that's kind of why I'm here. So these are a lot of interesting words. And when I go into talk to city managers and city council folks, I use these words because a lot of times they tend to be separate topics, but really they all connect. And the connecting factor in all of these topics and issues and opportunities is broadband. And so when you start connecting these conversations, you start realizing that the impact of broadband as a utility is transformative. That we can look at the way things used to be, and we look at the direction we want things to be in the direction we're going, and broadband seems to be the enabling technology, the core infrastructure, if you will, that will change our communities. And so you look at the funds coming from the various agencies and the initiatives that we're all talking about. We're recommending that for communities wanting to engage in the broadband discussion, they've got to talk about all these things. It's not just one thing, it's all these things. And it's a very important conversation for a community, for a region to have as all these things connect. So moving on to the next one. This is a very exciting conversation that started right about the time that the COVID situation happened. This is a regional network discussion. And as you can see, it's hard to see because of the size of the map, but the greens and the orange dots they're anchor institutions. And a big part of what's driving the discussion of a regional network is the whole idea of resiliency. We've found when we had certain fires, and especially in the Conejo Valley area, when you lose one utility, and in one utility we lost for the better part of a week, well, it's kind of hard to get informed. It's kind of hard to communicate and hear what's going on. And so a lot of the broadband capacity we have right now is not redundant, and it does not put us in a position of resiliency. And so it's not only essential for the first responders and the public safety professionals, it's also very, very essential for just the citizens and the residents of our region. Interesting as well as COVID hits is all of our assumptions were backwards. We've been talking about telework for 5 years. And I tell you, it fell on deaf ears up until COVID. We just couldn't get traction. The cultures died hard in terms of the organizations, public and private, of wanting to have your employees close by. And so all of a sudden, and you talk to the folks in the transportation area, and they said, we've been trying to get funding from Caltrans to widen the 101, and we entered several months where the 101 had virtually no traffic at all. And so a lot of the things that we assumed were turned on its head. The mountain has moved now. Telework is now an acceptable option. The problem is we put all of our fiber into business parks. We haven't done much in terms of neighborhoods. So when Mike talks about having FiOS, I mean, that's more the exception than the rule. We need fiber connectivity, or at least capacity, to get to all the homes as well, to be for the telework, to enable telework to occur. And so there is a conversation taking place. I frankly have not seen the collaboration, the level of collaboration occurring today, since, say something like BRAC 95, when there was urgency and there was an imperative for everybody to work together to save a military base. We've gone to all the cities now and started talking to the public works departments, the IT departments. We're talking to water districts. Anytime you have water projects, the CIP projects, we can go ahead and make connections for fiber. This is something that we're working on for middle mile. It's going to interconnect the cities. And what happens when each city will work on their own community networks. Some city of Ventura and city of Oxnard are quite ahead of others in terms of the fiber that they have in the ground and the capacity for a community network to exist. But then we'll be wanting to interconnect the community networks of the various cities. Rather than have each city individually go down and get a point of presence at one Wilshire or wherever they may get their internet service. We're looking at having the region do it together and do it as well with neighboring cities. And so we're standing this up. It's going to be partly public. It's going to have excess capacity for private, and it's going to be, interconnecting the region. We're putting a grant together through EDA, through the COVID CARES Act. And so we'll be submitting that before the end of the year. And it's going to be, the way it's stacking up in terms of where it will flow is out the 126, out the 118, out the 101. And those are our primary links, because you'll find the anchor institutions very much along those corridors as well. And we want to be connecting the anchor institutions in the face of a disaster or emergency recovery. We need to keep them connected. And so having the conduits, the ways to do it, and multiple ways to get into the region to keep them connected is very, very important. Finally, the last point I'll make on this is Caltrans has been a partner, and it's been fascinating to watch, because Caltrans is a behemoth when it comes to bureaucracies, but they certainly have gotten the memo, and they're working hard they're going to be doing some work on the 101, they're going to be doing some work on the 150 and the 33, and so there's certain corridors that, as Caltrans is doing its work, we're going to want to be right there putting our fiber in and try to minimize the disruption that's going to occur. So the partnering that's happening is at the federal, state, and local levels, and it's just wonderful to see. This is not the latest map. The map continues to change daily as we have conversations with stakeholders about this and people share data. Once again, I've been trying for 6 years to create broadband maps. Everybody wants to keep their data close hold, But when you create this vision, this opportunity, everybody says, hey, I can share data along the 126. I can share data along the 118. I want to go with you and do this kind of stuff. And so instead of having all data, we just want the data that we need, the data that's going to help the region as a whole, and people are really happy to play with those kind of opportunities. Moving on to the next slide. I use the term smart city, and but it's a buzzword, and I really know that in another 3 to 5 years it's probably going to wear itself out. But I do believe a term that's suitable is the technology-enabled community. Broadband is an infrastructure for technology. It's going to be what connects us all, and so I believe that COVID we've reached a point of awareness where we know broadband needs to be. It is what it is, and it's going to be. And so we've kind of feel like we've accomplished our goal. We have educated leadership. City Hall does understand what broadband's about. And the next thing that we can be doing as a consortium is talking about what do you do with the infrastructure that's in place. I think the broadband situation coming from, even when you think about where 5G is and the wireless technologies, this infrastructure will be in place within 3 years, maybe 5 on the outside, because it's coming fast and there's going to be lots of funds to do all of this work. But once it's in place, then what? And that really becomes the kind of conversation that is very much taking place in the ANTX and Coastal Trident forums. It's the collaboration and the innovation of capabilities. And I think we're really, really well positioned as a region with the vision that we have to be the place where technology innovation occurs. And it's, yes, the Navy needs it, and then the Navy is the core engine behind a lot of technology innovation, but we also have great companies in the area. Semtech with the LoRa technology is very much into this space, and there's a lot of other companies like that, and there's a number of companies that want to come here and be part of this conversation. And so this is, I think the vision is bigger than just test and evaluation of naval capabilities. I really think the vision is really test and evaluation and innovation of new technologies, and smart cities is just one way we can do that. So what's happening in the consortia today, this is my last slide, is 3 key conversations that we're trying to figure out. We're moving towards smart cities, and you got broadband, utilities, transportation, healthcare, public safety. All of the technologies that you see in an exercise for Coastal Trident and ANTX, or could or may, or 9 out of 10 times may have dual use applications in a lot of these areas. We're looking for a place to be able to do this for us. We've got CIOs, we got municipalities that are interested in engaging, and so yes, you can start with best practices and go grab one off the shelf, or you can work amongst yourselves as stakeholders in our region and attempt to do this in a collaborative way and test it through a collaborative process like Coastal Trident and ANTX. And so a big push that I'm making these days is to broaden the conversation, use the technology that's coming from the Navy into these applications, but also look at these applications that already exist and share that back with the Navy, and there may be some advancement there as well. And so it's the win-win in not duplicating the forums and duplicating the exercises, but writing on the back of what currently exists and is done so well, and just expanding our success. So how do you connect the dots and leverage the contributions of others? I think we've been doing that. We've been doing that for years now, and we're doing that well. And the success of Alan, Cheryl, Brendan, in terms of the way he runs exercises, it speaks for the number of participants. It speaks for itself. I think it wouldn't. Many of the technologies that we're looking at through our innovation discovery events, they can be, we pull people from the community in the region all the time, public safety, to have the same conversations. Where do you start, and how are you going to accelerate the process of collaborating? Well, I think we're talking about that already, and I'm looking for quick wins. I'm not looking for buzzwords, though. I mean, I just think that we need to be aware that there's all kinds of stakeholders now that have opened their eyes through the COVID process that are looking for what the future is going to look like. And this is a mechanism, a process regionally that we can use to create it. And then civic leadership and entrepreneurship. I think that we're going to have to work tactfully but deliberately in just getting people to understand how we all interconnect and collaborate. You still run into stovepipe thinking, organizational folks that are really wedded to their cubicle. And I think that the closed organizations still exist. We're going to have to continue to put pressure into opening things up and having people look at regional collaboration or collaboration outside of their own organizations in a different way. Caltrans was a fascinating example. You know, clearly the governor has had his orders. It's come down to Caltrans headquarters. It's coming down to the district offices. The district manager sat in an office with us, and he's telling us, the folks that are the managers at the local level here in District 7 in Los Angeles, they say, we don't know if we can do this. He says, you don't seem to understand. We have to do this. And just being in the room when these conversations are occurring and you're seeing these organizations change of culture is phenomenal. But that has to play out throughout all our organizations here in the local area. And so that's kind of what we're doing, and it's happening. Things are changing dramatically fast. But I think that we need to make sure that we're steering it in the right direction, and we've got a vision that we're putting out for everybody to share. So that was my 15-20-minute presentation. I open it up to discussion. Any thoughts about what you've heard? I can go back to any of the slides. Appreciate you letting me get through it all. I wanted to tell you about Vandenberg. The North Santa Barbara County is a region on fire. They've come together dramatically fast to go after the Air Force, putting the Space Command headquarters at Vandenberg, and they're competing, I think, with one other region now in Colorado. From a broadband consortia standpoint, we're working very closely with the base. We've found 5 different, right now there's one provider providing broadband. It's a no redundancy in terms of sources. We've now got 5 providers interested in providing service to the base. SpaceX, Blue Origin, a number of different, Amazon, they're all wanting to be on the base, physically co-located with the Air Force, using the broadband that's going in there. And so we've taken the opportunity to also design, much like our regional network, a North County Santa Barbara regional loop to change the complexion of what it looks like in the San Ynez Valley and Santa Maria area. And so it's been exciting to see what the community's done, how the community's responded. It's exciting to see the amount of investment in broadband and infrastructure going in now just along the 254 and some of those corridors into the basin, into Lompoc. And I think that we can do the same kind of thing here, partnering with the Navy base as well. So I wanted to make sure I fit that in. Any questions? Let me go right down to the Q&A part of this. Okay, I'm going to stop the share for now. Go down to the chat. Okay. Good question. I've noticed from the slide you referenced fiber only. What about broadband satellite? We're really technology agnostic. The one thing, we don't get into the wireless discussions much. One thing 5G needs, for example, is backhaul, fiber backhaul. So when you talk about wireless technologies, you're still talking about fiber. They have a full mile, or a long mile. That's when you go coast to coast or international. You have middle mile, which is what we're doing between city to city. Last mile is what happens when you get into certain technologies. And so satellites are going to be good for the last mile. 5G is, you don't need to go the last mile, but you can put the transmitters in certain neighborhoods. And so you limit the fiber footprint required, but you still need fiber. And so I think it's important that the satellite technology, when it gets here, it'll be here, and we'll welcome it. It's going to be great. But I think it's going to, if it follows the GPS model and how long it took to put all those satellites up there for GPS technology, I think it's going to be a while before we actually see it, especially in our areas, because they'll really work in the high dense areas and in cities first before they come into our neighborhood. So I have to run. Okay. And anybody else? Questions?
So Dr. Simmons, I have a couple of thoughts. This is Ramon Flores. I am the STEM coordinator at Naval Service Welfare Center Pro Hueneme Division, engineer by trade, doctorate in education. But my work deals almost exclusively with K-12, community colleges, and four-year universities. I take a K-20 perspective. And what COVID has done is really shown a light on the inequities in terms of connectivity, the digital divide we talk about. So you mentioned GPS. I thought that was a great leap off point. GPS essentially is free. You know, I can buy a device and I can get the GPS signal for free. In California, 1 in 5 families don't have internet access. County-wide, depending on where you live on geography, that number is anywhere from 10 to 15% of our students don't have internet access, which means they are not getting the free public education that is a right to them. So in my mind, in my ideal world, I see broadband as a free service, as free utility. Can you share some thoughts on that? Do you see that going that way where it becomes a freebie because of all the things you mentioned, all the transactions we do, you know, through internet connectivity? And again, if not free, are we moving towards agreements where we can really drive the price down, where it's really not an option at the house, whether I get broadband versus, you know, paying for the groceries?
In some of my academic studies, there was a theory of the internet is free, you know, and there's a lot of evidence where it's shown to be free. I subscribe to the fact that it'll eventually be free. We're looking at certain pilots and prototypes now of technology where all you've got to do is put a, you know, wireless transmitter up on South Mountain and you can beam down into Fillmore and Santa Paula and 100% cover the area. And it's just a matter of showing that, you know, who's going to do it and showing it can be done with the technology that we have. Yeah, I do believe it's going to be free. And where we're having struggles is the cultures. You know, we really, there's lots of funds for this whole digital literacy movement. It's the California Public Utilities Commission. I am paid to go find partners to help deliver internet. You know, and so there's 2 problems. The first one is deployment. I think we've got that problem solved. I think we will be able to get it to 100% saturate the area. But then the next one is the time required to sit with the family, sit with the students, sit with whoever we need to sit with and teach them. It's the adoption issue. And so the after school programs and all of the funding and the funds are there to have all of these programs, but we're not finding the partners or we're not talking the same language or whatever. Every week I'm putting out emails saying, looking for partners for adoption funding. And every quarter we can get, the funds are available and they can get in place within 60, 90 days to have programs, but I'm not making those connections adequately. And so I'm open to any and all ideas because the funds are there to do it. Dr. Flores, I think that everything you say is true. And we need to do it and it's happening, but we can't get there fast enough as far as I'm concerned.
So is it a matter of working with our legislatures? Is it a matter of working with our school districts? What's the resistance? Where can we put effort?
Well, yes. I mean, we were working with the Ventura County schools and we were working with the telecoms. And so the telecoms, we really wanted to have a program that for every school that went virtual, that didn't have, where a student disappeared and didn't have a connection, we could mobilize. And you know, that we had a model put up, we had the process put up. And then, you know, between all of the funding that was coming down from the schools, all the hotspots that were being deployed, the communications broke down. And so we were having issues and concerns just trying to permeate the walls of the bureaucracy and to stay relevant in terms of what was happening within education's own organic internal response to respond. So legislature, I think they've done everything they can do. I think that what we need to do is find 2, 3, 4 organizations wanting to provide leadership regionally and equip them. Really sit down with them, equip them, give them the resources they need to let them do it. But we also have to open doors with the education sector and community as well.
Bill, this is Selena, Cal State Channel Islands. And so as you're speaking and you think about partners, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this would be a great opportunity to partner with internships paid internship programs, because one of our challenges is that we want to try to get internships where the students are going to learn and are staying within their academic environment. So perhaps offering and partnering with the university in this case to provide those paid internship programs to our students that would then be assigned to a family to teach that family how to adapt to the internet and to, walking their way and educating them on the use of the computer. So that's a food for thought, and I'd be willing to talk to you and more about how we put those pieces together, because some of our students are carrying 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, and we were able to hire a lot of them at the university, but with COVID world, the funding has gone away, but also is the ability to do it in person. But I think that this might be a creative way to still offer them some type of financial support for the semester and keep them in their educational field.
Selena, if there's nothing else that came from this conversation, that's a gold mine. I mean, that's wonderful, and I want that conversation with you to continue. The other thing that we thought as we were coming up with the model of how to do this as schools were opening was Census 2020. A lot of work has been going for the last year in building these trusted relationships into these communities, and we really want to not, since the ambassadors and the people working on the Census 2020 effort, have built that trust and they are part of that community. Maybe the next step is using those same resources, those same relationships and networks to go in there and talk about broadband, and it's just a matter of, okay, we've met the census or whatever we did, but let's go into phase 2 and use that same army, if you will, lack of a military term, to go in back and say, let's talk about connectivity and literacy. And so I just don't know how to approach that conversation yet, but I think it's a great opportunity.
Definitely. Let's talk offline and we can work on that. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions?
Ideally, Bill, how far out do you think we are from making this a reality?
Well, in terms of the network that we're putting in place, we're talking real time. I think that we want to get the funding. We want to get that built in the next 12 to 18 months. Once we get started and everything we're seeing, it's amazing how people are sharing their CIP projects or capital investment projects. And so the public works folks, when they're putting trenches in, and the water districts, when they're putting pipes in and digging trenches, they're all, we can start, we're building the mechanisms now where we'll have a regional map. We'll know what's happening where, and advertising to everybody, come bring your fiber, take advantage of this dig, here, and in doing it, you share the cost of the excavation and the dig. And so there's incentive for everybody to engage in the conversation. I don't think we could have done it without COVID, frankly. I mean, if there is a silver lining, because it created a sense of urgency and a willingness for everybody to come together on this thing. So 18 months, I think, would be, when we're looking at funding through California funds, the EDA funds, the local funds, probably in the best case would be 36 months. The funding on the 118 is going to come in next, probably in the 101 activity. A lot of those cities are already online. The fact of what Conejo Valley looks like when GTE put FiOS in Newberry Park and Thousand Oaks, their fiber footprint's already pretty robust. So they're not nearly as, we're focusing on the Santa Clara Valley first. And we're having some great leadership from likes of Harold Edwards and Lee Manera. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with an irrigation pipe, in terms of fiber. And he's more than willing to share and participate in the conversation. So
the consortium is the Ventura County Office of Education part of that consortium?
Yes. Julie Judd is who we're talking to regularly, or the CTO. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Steve, I'd like to talk to you as well. It says that he indicates that broadband satellites are available today over North America. He works with Viasat and provides the type of service we're talking about here. And so he'd love to send some information about their platforms. Would love to receive it. That'd be great. Thank you. What's been learned from Google Fiber? That's a good question. It's interesting to watch Google. We've talked with the folks from, we've looked at Chattanooga pretty closely, and that was a Google Fiber city. Kansas City, Missouri. We've had it out for a presentation, and they talked a lot about what Google did for them and how they did it, and some of the issues that they overcame, especially in certain communities within their city. And where they went first and how they chose to get there and the incentives they had for certain folks to be able to get connected. What was exciting from an economic development standpoint in Kansas City was the discussion of what do you do with a bed and breakfast or an old Victorian house. And you really have a choice in a city of actually turning that Victorian into a bed and breakfast or turning it into an incubator. And the difference is fiber optics. And so all of a sudden, in terms of certain neighborhoods and certain communities, they would see different choices being made on the part of the people living there and what to do with these kinds of assets. Once fiber was everywhere, everybody was taking full advantage of it. And so the type of work, the type of businesses, the type of activities changed dramatically. The issue with Google Fiber is Google. I mean, they've been on again, off again, as far as we could tell. They've made a declaration they weren't going to be in. Now they are getting, have picked certain areas that they want to go back and explore. And I just don't know what the long-term plan is, what the business model is for Google to select a community to go in and do it. So we've learned that the community's changed dramatically. It's transformed when it's there, but we can't necessarily invite them to come here and help because that's not who they are. It's not what they do unless there's something here that's of interest to them. So we've learned that as well. So that was a good question. Any other questions? Well, you've got my email addresses, I think.
So Bill, how can we help you push? Bill, quick question for you is how can we help you push this agenda forward? What kind of support can we give you?
From your standpoint, Selena, I really miss Steve Berman. Yeah, he was Mike Berman. He was the CSUCI CIO was a marvelous. Did she leave? I guess she was, maybe her broadband connection needed some beefing up. Yeah, Mike Berman was the CIO out at CSUCI, and he was a great advocate, and he's been promoted now. And she's back.
And from the Navy perspective, same thing. Like I said, I'm the STEM coordinator, but I interact with school districts on a regular basis. I have good interactions with almost about 20 school districts. I work with Dr. Judd pretty regularly. So same question, from the Navy side, how can we support, how can we help move this forward?
Dr. Flores, your name precedes you. I've been hearing about you and the good work you've been doing and the things you've been doing STEM-wise, and so it is a pleasure to meet you. And
I appreciate that. Likewise.
Appreciate that, and I'll circle around and connect with you on that.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Selena, you're back. I just wanted to mention that Mike Berman was a great advocate of ours, and he had, he was very ambitious, and the work that he did with CENIC, the education network, was phenomenal. And I was really sad to lose him when he was bumped up to the state level to be the chancellor, not the chancellor, the CIO for the colleges, essentially, statewide. And we just need to probably talk some more about what CSUCI can do, and because I'm sure there's plenty. I certainly want to get you the briefing that talks about this regional network, and I think that you and your technical folks in the university part of that. Sounds good. Steve, I've got your information as well, and we'll get back to you.
Great, sounds good.
Yeah.
Dr. Simmons, last thing from me, I read, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that the chancellor of the CSU has made the call to go virtual for the spring semester. So again, we're not going to be out of this environment anytime soon. That is going to, I'm sure, trickle down to the community colleges, and then in my case, the K-12 school district as well. So just a data point, we're going to be in this online environment at least for another semester.
Yeah, we may settle on a hybrid, before it's all said and done. That may be part of the new normal is getting old. It's a worn out term now, but I mean, it may not ever go back completely to the way it was. And so it will be interesting to see. From a business standpoint, I'm sure there's going to be an awful lot of shift in business parks and in the size of business buildings and where you put your employees. And I think that the cities, with all of the stuff that's going on, they're going to be reinvented somehow to look different or be different in terms of what they are. And the school system, I would suspect, would be the same.
A bit of a digression, but I don't think we're going back to normal. When this COVID hit, the UCs and Cal States made the call not to require SATs and ACTs. And guess what? We still had kids enrolled. Personally, I've never been a fan of ACTs or the SATs for a bunch of different reasons. So the fact that we actually had students enrolled without those, to your point, I think is going to give us a new sense of normal. Granted, in this case on testing, but also with broadband and what the actual workforce looks like. So totally agree. I don't think normal is going to be what it was before.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, and maybe that's the new, we gotta reinvent the buzzword. Instead of saying new normal, it's going to be a different normal. So, Lipping says there are still apartment complexes in Port Hueneme that only allow certain service providers. What are the major challenges for broadband access for everyone? It's a funny industry. I call it as the Wild West. We have entrepreneurial broadband providers. We have what I call innovative broadband providers, and we have dinosaurs. And so a number of years ago, the franchise agreements, the big broadband providers, the franchise were let go, but they still operate as monopolies. And so you'll still go in and find the dinosaurs, and they haven't gotten used to the fact that there's innovators out there and there's entrepreneurs. And so there are other companies that are now coming in. Wave Broadband started in Seattle, on the other side of the Puget Sound. Before they're said and done, they're going to end up probably at Tijuana. They just are coming down the state. They're building cell towers and they're selling the fiber to the cell towers, and they're starting to deliver service, and they're coming into areas and they're disrupting the dinosaurs. And we've got a new broadband providers come into the area east of Santa Paula, Digital West, and it's the landscape is changing, and so the franchises are being, deregulation is set in. And the frontiers and charters and the companies that we have exclusively had are having to start sharing the marketplace. What you need to do is start figuring out, I know that the city of Oxnard is looking to make some changes. I suspect Port Hueneme will be close behind in terms of providing incentives and encouraging other providers to be in the area. Just continue to follow it, continue to watch it. It is the Wild West. The dinosaurs are really, I don't want to say they're going extinct, but they're learning to swim and do different things. And so it's going to be very different in the next few years as these new companies come in and start playing. So it's, and Vandenberg's a key place. I mean, to think about that, we've gone from 1 or 2 locals to 5 and nationals and, big companies that are coming in to play. And that's part of the report card. I said we got a D plus or a C minus. One of the criteria was if you only have 2 providers, and if you want to get a B, if you want to get an A, you got to have multiple sources. And we're really, as a consortium, working hard to invite other providers into our region and give everybody an option. And I know that the local cities are doing the same as well. So stay tuned. I think you'll be finding more providers providing more access for you. Sue. Good question. Anything else? Okay, if there's any, bsimmons@iprize.com, if there's any questions that you might have you want to ask me the next few days or whenever, feel free to write the email down and get back with me. And I just enjoy the opportunity to share a passion that I have. And Coastal Trident and ANTX is a great place, and broadband is an exciting capability for our communities. And eventually I'm looking for a nexus of where it's all going to play together. We can have technology working in our communities and changing the communities of what you're part of. So.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, I think we've got everybody back. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully those discussions were beneficial in helping helping all of us move forward with working with the government, private sector, and establishing those collaborative opportunities that are going to really result in operational capabilities eventually, fill gaps, meet needs with critical enablers and force multiplying technology. That's what we're all here for. So hopefully those discussions took the first step. This ends the end of our program that's focused towards the large group. Next, we're going to jump into Pitch-a-Thons, which are kind of pre-concept development for the ANTX Coastal Trident 21 program. This is kind of building on the theme of today, where day one, we were talking about the strategy and the overview. Day two, we were talking about the field and what we did. Now we're going to be talking about what's next. What do we do? What are the priorities? What's on the table for technology demonstrations and field experimentations, and can we use those concepts to create collaborative opportunities to innovate and really get down into the nuts and bolts of what these systems can do and how they can help the warfighter and also non-traditional responders, emergency response organizations, and law enforcement organizations that have to do with this port and maritime security space that we've been talking about all week. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming on this adventure with us over the last 2.5 days. We knew it was going to be new. We knew it was going to be a little bit different, but I think with the concept and the tools that the FATHOMWERX team were able to put together, I really think that we were able to achieve our objectives and really do some good and wrap up a program and start those discussions that'll need to take place building towards next year's program. I want to especially thank our partners at the Port of Hueneme, at EDC Ventura County, at Matter Labs, and at RDP 21. You've heard from them all today, and I do want to reemphasize that without that collaboration and without those partnerships, this program would never have been what it is, and it would never be what it is today. So thank you to all of you, and I look forward to working with you next year. I'm sorry, you're more than welcome to stay for the Pitch-a-Thon if you want to. But we did put it at the end because we're expecting it to appeal to a smaller audience. So like I said, it's kind of the end of our large group program, but feel free to stick around and see what we got going for next year. Alan, I'll kick it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Brendan. Thanks, everyone. I think we're going to kick it over to Bryan. Is that right? Yep. Okay. And he's got slides and material. So if you bounce out now, thanks again for sticking with us for a good 3 days, and appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Brendan.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to kick off the Pitch-a-Thon. This is going to be a fun event. We haven't done it quite like this before, but we like trying new things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're going to do this, and then I'm going to let Brendan jump on for a minute and give us a little bit of background. While Brendan's doing that, go ahead and just get prepared. We have today's the opportunity to kind of share with the Coastal Trident team ideas for next year. I know that we're wrapping up this day today for 20, but I know Brendan's going to probably take a power nap and then start on 2021 right after this. This is a good opportunity to give him and the team some ideas of what you guys are looking to try and do next year. And that way he can go out in the kind of off season and go try and find those resources for you. So the more time you give him, the better. This is also a very good time for other groups to kind of collaborate and join in. So we won't do it on this call, but if you guys see something, a pitch that you guys like and you guys want to partner up, then reach out to us or reach out to the individual who proposed it and maybe propose an idea of how you guys can team together or tag into something together. Just a little quick how we're going to do this. We're going to do 3 minutes to pitch. We're going to try and stay respectful of everybody's time and get through this. And then we're going to give the Coastal Trident team a couple minutes to do Q&A just to get clarification on that. and then we're going to try and move on. So 5 minutes total for each person. Again, this is just a quick pitch, quick conversation, plant the seed in their head, and then we're going to move on. We don't need information on the company necessarily, like the technology and proving that it works. We're going to assume that the technology works and you can deliver on the capability when the time comes. So we don't need to go into that. All the proposals and everything are all collected up, including anything else that you guys have sent over. We've got that ready for the team, and they can review that in the off season. So any other, let's see, so yeah, 2 minutes. So real quick, the batting order, so to speak, is up on the page. So we have 1, 2 through 11. So we're going to go one right after another. So Joe, get ready. You're going to be up as soon as that one's done. Greg, you're going to start, and we're just going to kind of keep going. Everyone has the ability, I believe, to either mute or unmute. We don't know, but just to be respectful, if you need to be muted, mute yourself. If not, someone might mute you. Don't get upset. So with that, hopefully there's no questions. If there are, I'm going to hand it over to Brendan. Brendan's going to give us a few words, and then we're going to come back. So Joe, get ready, and we're going to get started right after Brendan.
Sounds good.
Bryan. So one of the things that Bryan said that I want to emphasize is, earlier we start considering these concepts, the better. Our direction from our sponsor in the ANTX and Coastal Trident program is to, 1, meet their objectives, and 2, once we meet their objectives, do good things with their money. And so we have a tremendous amount of flexibility to support training, technical demonstrations, field experiments, and exercises with the resources that we get, not only from our sponsors, but from our other partners and the participants themselves. But we do need to prioritize those resources, and we need to spend that money smartly. We need to spend our effort where it's going to maximize the knowledge gained and justify the investment. So that's kind of what we're starting today. We're starting to look at some of the technologies that might work their way into the program, and that might be a really good fit for ANTX and Coastal Trident. Some of these ideas, some of these concepts might end up just being good ideas, and there's value in making a connection somewhere, but they're not necessarily a good fit for Coastal Trident. Maybe they don't really need to be in the port and maritime domain, or there's no advantage for them being there over any other domain. Maybe they just aren't a really good fit for the warfare centers and for the surface Navy in general. Maybe there's just a better organization that needs to respond to the request or to the proposition. So those are some factors that are going to go in the discussions that happen after this event. But I would encourage you to just be enthusiastic about the opportunity and the potential to engage with all the benefits and the resources that the Coastal Trident community at large provides. Thank you for being here. Just a couple of things that I'm going to really be considering. These are kind of my 3 priorities in these discussions. Number 1, when I'm thinking about a technology, I'm thinking about whether it fills a gap. If I can't communicate an operational need that somebody's communicated to me, or that I know about through another way, I have a hard time justify spending resources on that activity. So the first one is, does it fill a gap? Does it meet a need? The second one is, what's the scope of the activity? Is it a demonstration? Is it experiment? Is it kind of more on the laboratory research side? Coastal Trident is an operational research program, so we need a system or a capability to take and put out in the field to be able to evaluate it. So there's a certain level of technical or operational maturity that comes with that. That's going to be another factor for consideration. Second one, or the third one, I'm sorry, is it worth the necessary resources? Is the knowledge that we're going to gain worth what it's going to take for us to set up the venue to evaluate and learn stuff about these technologies and these capabilities? So those are the 3 things that really I'm looking at that factor into any potential role as a project in ANTX Coastal Trident 2021 as we move forward toward formal concept development, which if you've been following our programs, concept development typically starts in early October, mid-October with the beginning of the fiscal year. This year, since we're wrapping up the program a little late, probably look for that late October, early November. Okay, Bryan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Brendan. Okay, all right, let's get this started. Again, you got 3 minutes to kind of pitch the idea, so to speak. We're going to go 2 minutes on Q&A. We're going to try and be respectful of time. You don't need any other supporting documents. This is a conversation. Haley's going to try and put your proposal up on the screen. So Joe, why don't you go ahead and kick us off and show us how to do it?
Hey, Brian, can I actually show you a couple of slides if I share my screen?
No, sir, you don't have the capability to do it. So Haley's got your proposal up. You could just walk us through it.
Sounds good. And we've been talking a lot the last couple of days about asymmetric threats and their effect on the operational resilience. And I think it's an understatement to kind of say this year has been filled with a lot of asymmetric threats, but probably not in in the way we thought. And I think the last couple of days down on the coast has been a good example of that. And what we want to kind of talk about today is water as one of the most kind of critical of those, and how important to life and to, again, the ability to you operate, and whether it's on the battlefield or on the home front, we're dealing with a lot of these. Over half the tonnage water has been identified as a significant impacting factor for operational performance. The troops. Again, laundry list of things: China Lake, Lejeune, Tyndall, NAS Pensacola. I mean, I was just on the phone with some FEMA guys today, but it's a mess, down in the Panhandle. What is that? Bottom line of that, it often renders the water infrastructure unsafe for a matter of weeks, months, perhaps years. And so again, what's the impact on that? The other part of that is the man-made catastrophes, and that is the PFOA, PFAS, forever chemical contamination. And so that has been documented over about 400 DoD sites now, and the cost of that proposed to exceed about $2 billion, in climbing. The third element you have really coming into play now is the cyber attacks. A lot of the bases rely on municipal infrastructure to serve them. And now you've got the case where, again, only good, as your weakest link down in the Lejeune area, the local infrastructure was hacked. It affected their ability to, it kind of shut down the infrastructure there for several days. What did that mean? Well, that meant Camp Lejeune and these surrounding bases had no service. So again, you're really becoming subject to things you don't want to be. So what are we talking about with a barrel? Is we're talking about a new way to look at things, and to be able to address the water resilience by what may seem like a very basic concept. It's a 30-gallon water barrel, but unique in that it's ruggedized. It can be pressurized. It can be attached in line and pre-positioned. And the concept and can be daisy chained together. So the concept is, let's anticipate the problem, cut the problem off before it happens, and get these in line. And so it can be put into place, attached to your existing water infrastructure, allow you to use it on an ongoing basis. Bryan actually has 2 of them there at the FATHOMWERX facility. That can be seen, and they're usable right now, in line with the current operations. And so I think what we are trying to propose is, be it pre-positioned or as a result of a situational type of thing, being able to provide a long enduring type of solution, because the barrel here, unlike water bottles and 55-gallon water barrels where the water goes bad, it spoils very easily. It's a huge logistics expense to get it there if it's not already there. With a waterful barrel, again, you've got the opportunity to be able to pre-position resources, get them in place so that when and not if a situation happens, you're going to have access to water, both from a life-saving as well as a operational and your warfighter resilience your standpoint. So I think there's where could this be used for CT 21 pretty much anywhere. It can be at a hangar, could be on a flight line, could be in a littoral situation where, again, your water is needed either to support the troops or for the kind of operational efforts to be able to, again, really improve the operational efficiency.
That's perfect, Joe. Brendan, Alan, you guys got any questions for Joe on that, or pretty straightforward?
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, it's on the list. It's pretty easy to, pull together the resources to do a demonstration. Joe, are you looking to learn anything about the system, or are you just looking for, kind of awareness and access?
Brendan, I think we're always looking to learn. And again, because you know more about your con ops and con amps than anybody else. And, so we've got some ideas on being able to situations, again, from talking to other services, about ways, hey, how is water used in a situational, for, an SA standpoint, these are the ways, but always looking to understand the concepts. And again, it may be the most basic, seemingly basic thing, but yeah, I mean, this does not have to be a true war fighting exercise. I mean, a good portion of what you were doing there at PhD, is support and engineering. But again, there's a lot involved in that. So always looking to learn, without a doubt. And that, applies as well to the, local folks, talking to the city of Oxnard, emergency planning, Cal OES. I mean, I know there's a lot of folks involved in the effort here that Bryan's, and, Alan, have engaged. So, emergency planning, depending upon your professional role and your perspective, takes on a variety of angles. Again, but the, water impacts a lot of that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to jump in there. We're gonna go on to the next one. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, Bryan.
Take the rest offline. Thanks, Joe. Greg Hayward, you ready?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Greg.
Trackables Health's goal is to improve individual health, because individual health impacts group health, actually becomes more impactful than that. It's threatening group health. So identifying and monitoring people's vital metrics is essential to being able to understand as quickly as possible in real time if somebody, intentionally or not, is becoming a health threat to the others. And what we would like to do in our exercise is introduce someone that does pose a problem, and then be able to understand where they went, what they touched, what they interfaced with, so that we can then infer who they interacted with. So then not everybody has to have a wearable to be able to be mapped or at least addressed in a possible contact situation. And we're going to work with a lot of the efforts that are being done with presenter number 9, Carrie Shee from Ripple, as far as the tracking goes.
Hey, Greg, this is Alan. Are you are you trying to set up an experiment that you want people to use, and you want to kind of track it, or it's something you already have and you're just trying to demonstrate it, or you want to just have a kind of a facilitated discussion with the BUMED folks or the health folks that would be interested in that? Help me understand what you're trying to accomplish.
I think all of those things, because by the time it's for Coastal Trident 2021, which would be next summer, correct?
Yeah, kind of August timeframe.
Yeah, so we anticipate having our prototypes ready by that point. So what we like to do is to put one on somebody, create a false event, obviously, track the interaction in space, how quickly we can identify, the person that is marked as unhealthy, what are the protocols around responding to that person, sequestering them, those kind of things, so that we can hopefully roll this out in a bigger play for the rest of the Department of Defense, DHA, all those kind of things.
And are you looking for, and I probably misspoke a little bit, usually we try and be more of a June, July timeframe than August, but are you looking for a shipboard application, something you want to test on a ship, or if we...
I think that we can be flexible on, because really if you introduce an individual that it poses a health threat, it's ubiquitous in the reactions and applications on how you react to that. It really, I mean, the protocols would be different obviously on a ship than it would be at the base, but you're still going to want to know, where did that person go, what kind of equipment did they interact with, so that you can have all of those environments cleaned, but then you also want to know, who did they come in contact with.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you. I think we can chat a little bit offline too, as I think I've shared in a previous email. There's some open RFQs and RFIs on this topic anyway. So look forward to working with you and figuring out how to make it happen.
I appreciate that, Alan, very much, and great work to everybody to get this going. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. All right, Matthew Coleman Pointer, you ready?
Great. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Happy guys. And just let you know, there is a misspelling there under a name, but you can see it correct in the sheet. So Pointer, we already hold 6 patents for our 3D rendering. So to give you an overview of what we're thinking with the Trident is using our patented 3D rendering analysis and visual tools for everything from ships, ports, bases, offshore platforms, basically anything you can think of that you could use the 3D rendering for. This, especially with, IC, NAVC, NAVFAC, we see this being a huge gap because, there's so much 3D data out there that's already been collected or can be collected, but dealing with those terabytes of data, exchanging hard drives, example, we were at an Army exercise last week, and for the ANTX system, they're carrying around solid state hard drives for 3D areas where this is all web-based. We run on top of AWS. We've gone through the security protocols. So where we really see it coming in is the ability to view terabytes on your iPhone or Android device with having very low latency, whether you got 1 bar of LTE or you're out of port and you're over Iridium Satcom, and you want to be able to, let's say, scan a part on the ship and identify that there's either a corrosion, it's dented, it's cracked, and then that can be instantaneously analyzed, identified, sent back to something like what Bryan and the folks have at FATHOMWERX to have that part made, or even if there's something on the ship or platform to have that corrected and that part made. Also beyond that, we are agnostic as far as dealing with the 3D data. So it can be, like we mentioned, data collected from a terrestrial scan on board the ship, as simple as taking a phone, taking pictures that can all be stitched together in 3D. And then also what we can do is think of taking a drone, circling a vessel, and in some of the links that are on here that I provided, you'll see examples. What you'll be able to do is, near real time, take all those photos or LiDAR data, stitch them into something and do corrosion, do, facility checks, do inventory, do asset. If you're coming into a port area, having digital twins, if you're doing construction actually, at a naval port, or any type of, marine base, you can have not only the above ground, so the power line infrastructure, the buildings themselves, the actual port docks. You also can take the bathymetric data that's been brought in underwater, whether that was collected from airborne bathymetry or from side scan or single beam sonar systems, can all be merged together, and you do not have to download a program. You honestly don't even have to have everyone sign up to use it. You have one main user who could be the controller, and they can send a link out to 100 different sailors on the ship, and they can have it on an iPad or Android unit by just clicking on that link with no sign up, be able to walk around, take measurements, make annotations, do all of that in real time. So our real specialty is that 3D rendering and be able to take in terabytes and terabytes of data to be able to work in low latency environments. So I see, not only on the shipborne side in your platform, but also actually for your onshore facilities, since we also do, BIM for inside the buildings. And I'm not sure if my colleague Randy, our Chief Operating Officer on the line, has anything else to add to that.
No, I don't have anything. I think you did a good job with it. It's just a fully cloud-based 3D asset management platform. So whatever it is that you come to, whatever it is you need to assess, identify, print, whatever it is, you can transfer it there without having software, without having anything or any background or needing insight. It can be traded fairly easily, readily, and steadily and securely. So
that's great. Brendan, did you have any questions you want to follow up on?
No, I think we could follow up offline, but I have a pretty good idea of what the concept is. Module 5 typically of Coastal Trident is focused on information dominance. So, and maritime communications. So that's a good fit for that subject matter. I just want to make sure that we, the proposal itself has kind of the world of possibilities. I think one of the challenges would be narrowing down a specific scenario that you really want to dig into where Coastal Trident could add value to that and not just be a demonstration that increases everybody's awareness about it. Seeing if there's something that we can, help you learn about that environment.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, we're going to move on again. Apologies, I see a few spelling errors on here, guys. We were putting this together pretty quick this morning. So number 4, John Tesseract, you on?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Thank you.
So we've developed 3 things. One is a wearable robot system called Prism. We'd like to initiate a test with the military where we set up a real-time localization system inside a warehouse to predict and peel off data from our wearable robots on humans and assets. We have software that interprets location and bearing and health and security. That software is called Mosaic. It aggregates disparate data streams from the wearable robots, organizes that information and collects it in a smart space that we call a tesseract. The tesseract environment is roughly 20 by 20, surrounded by screens. It's able to reveal information in a spatial format. The tesseract environment is able to connect with VR or AR headsets to connect people in a real environment with a virtual environment. The third piece of our technology is Mosaic Sim, which we're running past, present, and future insights peeled off from the robots to predict health and safety and security and location of these assets. We're quite advanced in the development. We'd love to do a test in Port Hueneme in the warehouse there. And this technology has already been deployed on large construction sites in the Midwest and also in warehouses. How's that for 3 minutes?
Awesome, John. Can't wait to figure out how to get you guys out here, and someday hopefully I'll get out to your site and see what you guys are doing out there. Jesse's been keeping me updated on some of the cool things going on out there, so can't wait to get you plugged in out here.
Yeah, the badges are, the wearable robots are kind of interesting. We can deploy them in thousands and thousands of units, which we're doing now, but we're really interested for testing in harsh conditions. We've fortified these robots and they last anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. We put screens on them. We have different versions of the robots that have a e-ink screen, so you can message those devices selectively or in groups.
Very cool. Thank you, John. All right, next up, number 5, GBL. Eric, are you on?
Yes, I am. Here I am.
All right, take it away.
Yes, so my name is Eric Gentry, and we have created a cybersecurity digital forensics tool that we've created it with machine learning, and it's for use in the field. And it specifically is used for quick searches of phone and other media using built-in artificial intelligence when those devices are plugged into our device. The search basically uses artificial intelligence to match images to whatever criteria we've pre-selected and pre-identified. You can also, in the field, choose what text to search through those devices. It's lightweight, it's battery powered, it is multi-user enabled, so multiple people can look at the results. It can read iPhones, Androids, and most of the common drive formats. So if you plug a thumb drive in, that'll work. If you plug a hard drive in, that'll work. If you plug a drone image device in, it will also read those. We're expecting the law enforcement, so law enforcement teams can actually view the results using their own iPads or phones or laptops because they can connect wirelessly to our internal Wi-Fi hotspot. So this device acts as a hotspot as well. So you can have multiple people doing multiple searches at the same time. It can handle up to 5 devices at a time, so you can actually plug in multiple devices and it will go in and read all those devices at the same time. We comply with software write block, and that enables us to preserve evidence so that we don't modify what we're actually looking at. It also complies with mobile device compliance on the NIST cybersecurity framework. So we're NIST compliant, as well as using the very most secure Wi-Fi and SSL encryption, so nobody else can get to this device. We've worked with some great people. We've worked with the Southern California High Tech Task Force on this. USC has helped us a bit, especially in the machine learning. Cal State Channel Islands, and we're also working with the DEA on this device. And the main reason we're here is we are interested in collaborating to test this tool with cybersecurity and law enforcement personnel in kind of a security concern type of environment. You know, we could stitch together the social network connections of multiple devices, or actually search for particular things like you know, drugs or money or guns, those sorts of things, or whatever we actually choose to program into the search algorithms in the machine learning. And so that's our main pitch.
Perfect. All right, Brendan, Alan.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So cyber is a tough one for Coastal Trident. We've had a lot of people concerned about cyber security issues in the port and maritime domains. I shouldn't just say it's an interesting one from Coastal Trident's perspective, but I think kinetic exercises in general, it's at least my experience with it have been that everybody's worried about it. Everybody's got a requirement to do it. And there's a lot of uncertainty in the community about how to actually exercise cybersecurity stuff. So I would really like to see us be able to pull this off. And, you know, I think with our Matter Labs and FATHOMWERX partners giving us the interface to the cybersecurity world and the local government agencies, I think that we should be able to pull together an exercise, but it's going to be one of those ones that we're going to have to track the priority really closely, because
sure.
If we're talking about NCIS, definitely there's a Navy connection,
right.
But it's that concept is pretty far outside the wheelhouse of, you know, kind of what the Navy and the port are really looking at hard. So I don't see it being an insurmountable challenge, but it's one that we're going to have to really put together a concept for partnering with everybody really, really well. So I really appreciate it. I really like the concept. I'd really like to see it be part of Coastal Trident 21, but we're gonna have to do some brainstorming on it.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, great. Hey, so just as a side note real quick before we go on to number 6, if you guys want to share your information, you know, go ahead and drop it into the chat. I see some people already chatting and talking and collaborating. So if you want, feel free to put stuff in there, anything you guys want, links, stuff like that, please do. All right, number 6, John from Mothership, are you on?
I'm here. Can you hear me, guys?
Yep, can hear you.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. Mothership Aeronautics is dedicated to the development and deployment of aerially persistent intelligence gathering technologies. In order to achieve this long endurance that we specialize in, we use solar aero, so solar cells and aeronautical integrations, hydrogen fuel cells, autonomous technology, and robotic manufacturing allows us to have a very short cycle time, very cheap iteration. So if we find that a design is not perfectly suited to its task, we can quickly update the design and come up with a product that is perfectly suited to the task at hand. We've been looking over the past few months at applying a hydrogen fuel cell powered drone to nautical applications, partially because over the ocean we have fewer limitations with regards to transmission distance, seeing as there's no obstacles and we're not flying over people, so it's easier to load more onto the autopilot and rely on that to get you that 1 hour, 1.5 hour flight time and really go a meaningful distance. And we've seen a lot of applications where fighting smuggling, illegal fishing, illegal logging, and piracy all over the world, where it could save lives to have some reconnaissance over the ocean. One thing that we have learned in our recent research is that the most common drone used by insurgents, pirates, and smugglers, etc., is a DJI Phantom 3, which is a $500 drone. So on the one hand, we've been thinking it's great that we can get 2 hours flight time with a hydrogen fuel cell, but we want to experiment with doing something a lot lower cost and a lot more mass producible, because those are available in very large quantities. And what we've seen is that engagements have occurred between navies around the world and insurgents, where the insurgents have lots of small, cheap drones. Also, a recent SBIR that I was looking at said that the military is generally interested in accretable UAS, as in, like, they don't mind if it gets shot down, they don't mind if it gets lost, they just want to have lots of cheap ones. Send them out in all directions. So given that, we want to leverage our robotic manufacturing to produce a small form factor, cheap, long range alternative to quickly deployed maritime intelligence. And we have a few designs that we want to try out in practice, and a few communication philosophies that we want to try out, rather than go with the tried and true, not the tried and true, I guess the tired industry common, 2.4 gigahertz HD. We want to look at more lower frequencies, higher power, since we're going over the ocean, and just minimum, like, do you see a man with a gun? Do you see a boat? Rather than, like, we're not trying to get all the pixels here. But one of the reasons that we need help is we want to find out, like, what is the minimum that is actually functionally useful, with some, obviously, redundancy factor, so that we can minimize the product and have the small form factor, convenient to use, robust, mass producible product.
Awesome, John. Thanks a lot. Hey, have you engaged at all with some of the other federal and state agencies that do water stuff? I'm thinking NOAA, up here we work closely with the National Marine Sanctuary Program, as well as California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I know they've been involved, in Coastal Trident in the past. And so if you haven't engaged with them, I think as we go through this planning process, we'll bring in Todd Jacobs, Todd Van Epps, a couple of our partners there, and see what kind of interest level they have, and if there's something we can put around there.
We've not engaged with them yet, but we'd be very excited to. We have spoken to Todd Van Epps, and we're excited to be working together.
Awesome. Okay, I'll see him this afternoon.
Great. All right. Good job, John.
Thank you.
Next up, number 8, Arrow. Are you on, Menachem? You there?
Yeah. Hi. You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi guys. Thank you, Brian and Eric and Alan. It's been a really interesting week following over the past couple of days. Hi, my name is Menachem. I'm the founder at Arrow. What are we doing here is we are actually creating the future ground station for an infrastructure for drones. Currently, if you want to use a drone, you get about a 30-minute flight time. You need a pilot, and there's a huge amount of and if you want to try and scale that up, you need multiple personnel involved. What we are looking to create is this ground station that can handle all that for you. And what it is it's basically an automated battery swapping system that if you had more than one drone, you can actually now have multiple drones in the air 24/7. So we're not talking about 30 minutes. We can allow you to have that sensor or that surveillance in the air for 24 hours. And we see this being a massive amount of information that you can get from an eye in the sky at a fraction of the price compared to existing solutions. So 2 areas: if you want to deploy a helicopter, you have this huge cost, or if you look at having a CCTV, it's sort of this fixed viewpoint that's all you're getting. Where if you can have a drone in the air, that gives you that dynamic HD live footage, and not just 30 minutes, but actually on a 24/7 basis. That's really what we're pushing for. We see this potentially being deployed on ship and as port security, base security, and possibly also looking at the drone to be able to deliver where ship to ship if possible. But really the technology that we're creating is this platform that enables the drones, and we can work with VTOLs as well, potentially ground robotic vehicles as well. So we're really focusing on this technology that allows you to maximize the use of that drone platform and minimize the amount of hours you need to actually have an input and fly it. So maximizing that autonomous capability. We're always looking and open to partnerships and collaborations. And I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we can have a prototype ready, and I'd love to demonstrate it and show you guys.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Persistent surveillance and the long range, long duration sensor systems is something that we've been looking at in Coastal Trident for a long time. And it's kind of spurred our motivation to look towards, inflatable or lighter than air systems, tethered drone systems. But it's something that we haven't really found the right solution for the port environment, where you could have, depending on the size of the port, drones flying around 24/7, or the shipboard environment. So I think your capability is really something worth looking at, and I wouldn't see a problem with it fitting well into Coastal Trident 21.
Great, I look forward to it.
All right, good job. All right, next up, Carrie from Ripple. Are you on? Carrie Shee, are you there? Her voice is, all right, let's give Carrie a minute to come back on. We'll move on. Chris, are you ready if we jump you ahead?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Chris, go ahead.
You guys can hear me okay? Brian, can you hear me? Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're making basically a flying motorcycle. If you've seen what we can do with the jetpacks, we're basically taking that and turning it into something that's automated, something that doesn't require a man to be on, but can take a man. Turbojet engines, so it takes a lot of weight. It can fly roughly 200 miles an hour. So basically what we're looking at for Coastal Trident is the ability to demonstrate it for stakeholders, because things that we get a lot of questions that kind of detract from what we're trying to do. Can you carry this? Can you go this far? Oh, what about this application? What about that application? Recently we got basically we were talking with a couple of special forces suppliers that were saying, well, why do we need a flying motorcycle? We have dune buggies. And that's basically like asking, like, why do we need an airplane? We have bicycles. Like it's not at all on the same scale. And our capabilities are so much far and beyond what aircraft can do now that we need a space to be able to show people the possibilities. So if we can get an event together that we can have stakeholders seeing, oh, this is picking up like a real person and going to a real location, doing a medevac event, landing in an area that a helicopter couldn't land in, because that's a big deal. If you look outside and you can see a house next door to yours, a helicopter can't land there, and ours will be able to land there. The jetpack can land there easily. The maneuverability in small locations will open up a whole world of possibilities that medevac personnel don't even think about, that military personnel don't know how powerful this could be until they can see it land right next to you, pick up that person and go off into the next location, or pick up cargo, drop off cargo, drop off personnel in areas that are highly contested, where normally you'd have a Black Hawk that costs $20 million, carrying crew members of 4 to get one person out. Whereas now we could send in a speeder or 4 for a quarter of the price, a fifth of the price, send in 4 speeders, 1 speeder with no man on it in a contested area, get people in and out of those situations for a fraction of the cost at a fraction of the risk to personnel. So if we can have the ability to have stakeholders standing there watching, going, oh, okay, now I start to get it. Because right now we get questions like, oh, we don't like the color. Can you change the color? Like, yes, guys, you're missing the point. Like, color is easy. Like, what we're doing is above and beyond what you've seen before with aircraft. And they just, nobody gets it until they see it. And if you see a jetpack take off right next to you, you go, wow, this is different. So that's really, we don't have any specific need. We don't need a naval ship. We could use one. We could take off from one. We could land on one. We can do it on land. We can do it with firefighters, EMS, military. We just want to be able to kind of show just a glimpse of the possibilities and get people away from the distractions of those really minute questions.
Alan, Brendan, do you guys think you could figure out something to do with a jetpack?
And
yeah.
Again, to be clear, this wouldn't be with the jetpack. This would be with the speeder. We've done work with the military before with the jetpack, and basically through that interaction, we've come up with the speeder. So we kind of want to start pivoting towards that direction.
Apologies. Yeah, the speeder.
So you're taking the jetpack off the table?
I mean,
crush my dreams.
We can still fly with it, but again, like, because of the exercises we've done in the past, the feedback that we've got is, hey, we want to be able to do this remotely, without a person, with a person. We want to be able to put this down. The jetpack, once you land, you need somewhere to put it, and it limits it a little bit. But I mean, if the jetpack is, something that people want to see, we can do that too.
No, I think that distinction is really important, and it is really important that you say that, hey, we've already done testing with the jetpack. It's cool, but that's not really what we're interested in evaluating, and this is not where we really see the value. It was a stepping stone. So that kind of insight is really what we're looking for here. But Alan can back me up if I miss something, but there's a constant need for resupply at sea, for vertical replenishment, for medevac from remote locations. I don't think there's a problem identifying a fit.
Yeah, cool. I think the challenge will be, Chris, is with any flying anything, particularly if it's unmanned, there's a whole litany of things that have to happen, and we've done them. We're doing them for stuff now. So the sooner we really know what you have and what you're intending on flying, what the capability is, the better. I'm sure you guys as a company know this and have gone through it also. And so just, being very realistic on what are we trying to do and what are we trying to achieve, because frankly, we probably got to start now with some of those processes. So we can chat offline. I think it's it's great. You guys, seeing you just down the way here the other day is awesome. So it'll be good to have you participating.
Sure. Yeah. And if it helps, we do have a really good relationship with the FAA, and if it changes things from airspace perspective, we can fly manned in order to just keep it simpler for the FAA as well. But we've gone through that quite a bit, so it's not necessarily a hurdle on our end, but it depends on where we're flying, really, I guess.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Good job, Chris. Hey, real quick before we go on to EMP, we're gonna inside the FATHOMWERX. If you're a member, we have a Slack channel. In a couple weeks after we give Brendan and the team a break, we're gonna open up a Coastal Trident 21 channel to talk about stuff like this, collaborate, and so you get signed up if you're not already, and get into Slack and be prepared in a couple weeks. We'll make an announcement in the email newsletter as well when that's up and running, but just keep a lookout for that. So next up, number 11, EMP, Mr. Donovan, are you on? I saw you earlier.
Hello, Alan, Bryan, thank you very much again for this opportunity. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Tim Carty, the founder and guilty hero for this technology being available to our nation. So it is not going to be fair for me to talk about this technology. So I will,
can you speak up a little bit?
Yes.
Can you speak up a little bit for us, or a little closer? It's a little hard to hear you.
All right, thank you for letting me know. I'm introducing to you Tim Carty. Mr. Tim Carty is the founder and what I consider the guilty hero for this technology being available.
Did we lose you? I think we might have lost you. I think we lost audio and video, so maybe we can give him a second and try and come back if we want to. We got one more, Brian.
Yeah, we do. We have two more carriers back on the line. AJ, Scotty, are you up and going? You ready to pitch?
I am, my friend.
Okay, go ahead. Let her rip.
Okay. Hey, my name is AJ Scotty. I'm from a company called Gyrene. Our main focus is on water and water innovation, but we have another capability that we're working with right now. It's an underwater communication buoy called the manta ray. It was designed by Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane, and then we further developed it. We have it in a 3D printing mode right now. It supports aquatic specialists and combat divers within the Special Operation Forces and the diving community overall. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I was running up the stairs when I heard my name. Presently, there's no system that allows individuals working underwater to have mobile devices and communication to transfer data back and forth. It's all dead reckoning and it's old school technology, compass reading, map reading. So this system is a new system developed by the Navy and passed on as a technology to us, tech transfer technology to us to develop it further. We're in the first generation right now, and it's connected to the diver and is subsurface. So we've done some testing on it, and so is the Navy at Crane. We got it to about 15, 20 knots, and it'll be further developed to go autonomous and bring in other capabilities other than just GPS navigation and pinging via texting underwater. It obviously allows the combat operators to communicate with headquarters, and headquarters communicate with the divers themselves. So this seems to be a no-brainer. We have a lot of traction already within the SOCOM world and with the Naval Training Command over in Panama City. So our goal right now is to engage stakeholders at Port Hueneme in the SOCOM, UCT, and diving specialist world, increasing their awareness about the procurement of the manta ray and how it can be used as an underwater communication buoy. Furthermore, not just to create awareness, but we're looking to do an evaluation or capabilities evaluation with FATHOMWERX, with Matter Labs, with Port Hueneme at the actual diving pool that they have at their center. And we can show the compactness, it's portable. We can show the capacity and the capabilities in real time to the UCT teams, to the SOCOM teams down in Coronado, and also maybe even pull the MARSOC teams up as well. That's it in a nutshell. Any questions, please go ahead and throw those questions at me.
Sir, so this was developed, you said, by NSWC Crane. You guys are working on it. What was the relationship with Panama City?
Panama City has been asking for this this technology for a couple of years through Crane. Panama City is going to be vetting it and using it in their training program, as we understand it. One Star has been pinging Crane to get it over there in the next few months. Okay. Our goal would be to go to Port Hueneme first, because our guys are on the West Coast, up in San Francisco and down south of you in LA. Yeah. So Port Hueneme would be number one demonstration, and then a follow-up with Panama City.
Okay, I ask because Holly Gardner, if you've run across that name, over at Panama City, she's kind of our contact for this kind of stuff at that command. And so okay. I think, you know, I'd like to connect her in with you guys and make sure that, you know, what we're doing here, like you said, I mean, ultimately, Panama City, if they're going to be the ones that have been asking for it, we have a great relationship with Holly and the team there. So getting them involved in the experiment, the design, even though, you know, doing it here makes sense, having them involved early on seems to be a a smart way of doing that, if that aligns with you guys and if that's okay.
That it completely aligns, and Crane's on board with it. Also, I'd like to point out that there's a couple of individuals in this panel. Matt Coleman was talking about his technology. We're already talking about how we could do an integration for second generation, and some other folks. So it's a platform that you can put things on as long as it's not too heavy.
Perfect.
Hello, we are on the phone now. EMP.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. We'll connect and connect up with Holly also.
Thanks, sir.
Brian, back over to you. Looks like we got Playman back.
Yeah, Playman, you want to go ahead and restart yours, and then we're gonna come back.
Yes. Sorry about that, but we'll go over the phone audio. I would like to introduce to you Mr. Timothy Carty. He's the founder of EMP Shield, and of course, he knows the technology quite extensively. So it is my pleasure and honor to introduce him, and I'll let him take it from here.
Thank you. I'm Tim Carty with EMP Shield. We have the DIME technology. DIME is detect, isolate, and monitor of EMPs. There are two modules to our system. First one is mitigation. And E1, when you have the nuclear blast, the E1 peaks at 2.5 nanoseconds, approximately 50,000 volts per square meter. And the E2 starts at 1 microsecond and goes up to 1 second. Our mitigation technology mitigates 20 kiloamps, 20,000 amps in only 250 picoseconds. MIL standard 188.125.1 says that you have to mitigate 5 kiloamps within 20 nanoseconds. We are multiple times faster than that. The detection of the E1 in 2.5 nanoseconds with verification within 10 nanoseconds on the detection and isolation part, we detect a 2.5 nanosecond rise time within 10 nanoseconds, and we have a response output within 300 nanoseconds from the event. We can put, whether it is a facility, a base, etc., we can bring that into island mode instantly. We can bring that into island mode. We can start additional backup generators, etc., to keep from having the E3 effect. We also monitor in the system, so in the event of a GMD, we can detect and still isolate from the grid, etc., from the E3 effect. We protect land and sea-based vessels. We protect power, RF, data, networks, and we protect vehicles so they can continue to move. Today, we can protect with products that we have from high altitude EMP, the E1 and E2 effects, and mitigate in real time on that. The E3, we can also put into island mode and mitigate the effects. Our goal is to verify the resilience of our EMP solution for land and sea-based platforms, and taking into consideration the sea platforms, the event from the Russian Air Force in April of 2016 and the Donald Cook, all the way up to today. We're in the China Sea, South China Sea. China is threatening the Navy with EMP attacks from there. We have a solution, and our goal is to be able to verify the solution, land-based and sea-based platforms. Over.
Thanks for that. Glad you guys got to come back with us. So EMP is kind of like one of those cyber things. Everybody's concerned about it. It gets talked about a lot. but it's very difficult to, get out and run meaningful and relevant and kind of scenario, up to the level of an actual scenario with EMPs. We were working with a couple of different systems this year that wanted to do EMP demonstrations. We were working towards getting some range space at China Lake or White Sands to do that. But one of the things that you and I would have to talk about a little further is, what are the actual effects that we need to see? Does it need to be representative of a high altitude EMP? Can it be a localized EMP? How are we going to provide that? But also, how are we going to ensure the protection of all the systems? If you're talking about a sea-based test, almost inevitably you're going to have systems in the area of influence. So we're going to need to make sure that we go through the processes for protecting everything in the right way, just in case the technology doesn't perform as expected. From a program manager, principal investigator perspective, I'd really like to see it happen. There's just a lot of work that would need to go into this. Very resource intensive to get the approvals to light off your threat.
Right.
One of the things is we're in final testing for the electrical grid under the Presidential Executive Order and the NDAA of 2020, which requires the grid to be tested. We are testing with Idaho National Labs during the fourth quarter, and we were selected to be with Joint Base San Antonio on the EMP. I'm also part of the Texas Grid EMP group out of Joint Base San Antonio, and also sit on the Resilience Power Work Group that has just revised specifications for grid resilience and power. We also have like 5 people from the National Security Council that sits on that, including Dr. George Baker, which was on the EMP Commission. We have gone through our science. We have strong, solid science, and have tested our equipment to the mill standards, and we've fully exceeded by magnitude. The grid part for isolating on the grid, we are testing with Idaho National Labs. We have been around a while. We have been staying low, out of sight, with the exception of dealing with the government, Stratcom, Northcom, CENTCOM, DOD, and DHS.
All right, Playman, good job. I'm going to jump in there so we can move on to our last one and wrap this up. We're already running a little bit behind. So the last one, Carrie's finally on. Carrie from Ripple, are you on?
I am.
All right, take it away.
Thanks for everyone's time. Ripple Networks is the company. I am the founder and CEO. We make a hardware and software radio that can, without GPS, without cellular, without any kind of infrastructure, be able to track in 3 dimensions anything that this device is stuck to. So stick it on a drone. We can put some geofences that are wire-free. They're battery-powered around the Port of Hueneme and actually track personnel, shipping containers, drones, you name it. So we're, in fact, deploying that at the Port of Hueneme. We're also presenting next week to GS14 lady for the FAA towards remote ID and 3D tracking for airports. So it's quite simple technology. The test we would look at would be to put these on 2 or 3 drones, post a couple of what we call geofence devices around the testing area and fly away. And we've got a 3-dimensional interface that's actually got a 1-to-1 model of Port Hueneme or wherever we do this. So you would actually see it in real time flying around, and you can move the camera around to see where it's at. Make geofences that say if it penetrates a certain cubic area that an action's taken place. But the test, I think, would be really cool to prove that it's working, with military grade drones.
Great, thanks. Brendan, Alan?
Carrie, all sounds good. I guess it's kind of like Brendan asked in the other one, just let's figure out what we actually want to do and put it on. It sounds like you can do a lot. If we want to do drones, that's one thing. Things around the port, let's figure out what it is we want to experiment with and push the envelope a little bit, but we'll be great.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thank you everyone for participating. I know it's been a long day already. I'm glad you guys stuck around. Again, this is the beginning for 2021. Get on to FATHOMWERX, get in touch with us. Let us know what other ideas you have. Come share, come communicate or collaborate like you guys are doing in the chat. So we'll continue this from now until 2021 inside the Slack channel in FATHOMWERX. If you're not signed up, come sign up. If you got needs, anything like that, hit us up. We're happy to help. That's what we're here for. So thanks to all the partners. Thanks to everybody who put this on. Can't thank everybody enough. And thanks for Alan and Brendan and team allowing us to do this. And we're so excited to be finishing this off and then looking forward to 2021. So thanks everyone. Appreciate it. We're going to sign off here from FATHOMWERX, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.